Right to go, Brett. Good morning, councillors and members of the gallery. Welcome to, and media. Welcome to our Community Standing Committee meeting for the month of June. First of all, do I have any leave of absence? I believe the Mayor has one, so, and the CEO. Yep. The CEO is tuning in online, but he's away at the moment due to COVID, unfortunately. So hopefully he's all going well. No apologies, so that's it. We're dealt with there. Go now to Councillor Duff for recognition of the traditional owners.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. I'd like to acknowledge country and the land where we meet this morning, the Waka land, and acknowledge the elders, both past, present and emerging. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Declarations of interest. Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. I'd like to advise I have a declarable conflict of interest in relation to the confidential section item 13.3, St John's School, grade 12 expansion. My daughter attends St John's School as a student in grade 4. I just wanted to make it known to the chamber that she is a student there at school. I do not feel my conflict in any way would negate my ability as the representative of Division 4 to actually engage with the school and meet with them in relation to the introduction of senior schooling on their site. And so I would like to put to the chamber that I stay in the meeting and participate on the grounds that my conflict is actually no different to any other student who attends the school. And yes, I do not feel my bias or conflict would interrupt my ability to act impartially with relation to this matter.
Thanks, Councillor. I guess we can deal with that straight away. Acting CEO will go straight to that if you'd like to leave the room, Councillor, and then we can just have a quick brief conversation after those comments. So Councillor Shoemaker's leaving at 12:08? No, sorry, 9:05 or something. My apologies. Just hoping that we could get to 12:05 quickly. Okay, so as you heard there, Councillor Shoemaker has a child there participating in grade 4. The officer's recommendation is that the committee recommend to council that council meet with representatives of St John's Lutheran School to investigate options for the expansion of the school to cater for the introduction of senior schooling. So I guess in regards, in regards to that, I guess that we as a council are only going to meet with representatives of St John's Lutheran to investigate options. There's no decisions or anything else to be made. It's just to, I believe, gather some information. So I'll open it up to the floor, and if there's any comments in regards to whether Councillor Shoemaker stays away from this conversation from now on, or whether we allow her to participate in at least having the conversation with the representatives. Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would like to sort of point out here that she's actually been involved with some of these discussions with the school already with regards to her daughter and everything like that. So I do believe that her interest is no greater or lesser than anyone else in the community. And I do believe that she has the ability to put all personal thoughts and feelings aside with regards to the school. So I think we should let Councillor Shoemaker stay in the meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Henson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, look, I'm the same opinion as Councillor Potter. Many councillors and staff, of course, are parents in this establishment. So Councillor Shoemaker, and education is an important thing, as the recommendation states there. It's just the fact that we're investigating options, so I have no problem with Councillor Shoemaker being involved in this section. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments? All righty. I guess we can go to the vote then. Sorry. Councillor Potter, do you want to move anything from the floor, please?
Yes, I'll move that motion, thank you.
And that motion is? The seconder, Councillor Henson. Go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Grab Kirsty. Thanks. Yeah, Councillor Erkins, sorry.
Thank you. Just to let you know that on 8.4, NAPTA's a request for sponsorship, just to let you know that I'm a member, but I don't hold any committee positions.
So in the light of that, Councillor Erkins, as she stated that is a member but is not on any senior position on the board. So that, I don't believe that is a conflict, but we'll make note of that, Councillor. Just make note of that, yep. Councillor Duff?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. Yeah, I'm also a member of the Morgan Business and Development Association, and that may be, well, it is coming up in the confidential section 13.2, Creative Country Association, that's Songbird Centre.
So what are you trying?
I'm just a member of the Morgan Business and Development Association, but I'm I don't hold an executive position.
So happy if we just make note of that, Councillor. Yep, thank you. No one else? Okay, we have a deputation this morning from Leanne and Mark from Tingora Village, so we'd like to welcome you up to the front of the room if you'd like to come forward. We'll get you set up. You have 15 minutes to deliver what you wish to say to the council. So welcome Leanne and Mark, and I'll hand over to you guys now and leave you to your presentation.
Good morning. Good morning, Deputy Mayor, councillors, council staff and members of the gallery. My name is Leanne Morgan and I have been a resident of Tingora for 10 years, and I'm here today to be a voice for the residents in light of the headlines, "The Forgotten Village" in the Burnett Today on the 26th of May. I'd like to thank Mayor Otto for encouraging us to attend today's meeting and giving us the opportunity to speak. First thing I'd like to speak about are the roads, drainage, curb and channelling. About 5 or 6 years ago, several residents in the village were continually having water run into their properties during heavy rainfalls. Damage was occurring in the sheds, yards and also on the roads, mainly due to the lack of drainage and minimal curb and channelling in Tingora. These residents made numerous complaints at the time, and as a result, some repairs were made, but unfortunately the problems continued to grow. The village has minimal drainage and curb and channelling, with most of these being at the bottom of Ham Street and around the Tingora pub. The only water runoff area is approximately 200 metres past the tennis courts, which is why a lot of the drainage and damage is increasing. Could I please have photo 1 and photo 2? So that's the drainage just past the tennis courts. Tingora is mainly on a hill, and whenever we have even a moderate amount of rain, the water flows downhill, which means Hill Street Photo 3, please. Magnuson Drive and Mullis Street are the worst affected areas, with increasing erosion, roadside ruts and damage. Next photo, please. One Mullis Street resident had to spend $2,000 building a retaining wall in his yard after council staff inspected his property and told him there was nothing they could do. Next photo. Oh, that's the photo, yep. In the past few years, more residents have raised complaints, and as a result, further minor excavation work was done. But unfortunately, this was only a short-term solution and the problems further increased. In 2019, the Tingora Community Connection Group was created by locals who had a vision for Tingora and wanted to create a more inclusive community where people feel connected. We've since had many community meetings, morning teas and events, but the main topic that continually comes up is the lack of decent roads, proper drainage and minimal curb and channelling. Moving forward to the council election in 2020, Scott Henshin was invited to speak in Tingora. Once again, the main topics of concern were the lack of curb and channelling and drainage in the area. Scott advised this would be one of the things he would address if elected. And now in June 2022, we're still in the same situation. Council engineers have looked at these issues many times, and we have been told that costings would need to be done before funds could be allocated in the next budget. Large amounts of rain have fallen in the past 8 months, and this has created further degradation, which means larger potholes, increasing ruts in Mullis Street, and more erosion in other streets. Next photo, please. And the next one too. One resident has fallen at the front of their block due to erosion. Next photo, please. In Mullis Street, an ambulance had trouble accessing a house due to the condition of their driveway. Next photo. A child has fallen off his bike in the rut at the side of the road in Mullis Street, and there have been other residents who haven't been able to drive in their own yards for 6 months due to the state of their driveways. Next photo, please. And next one. Mullis Street has become extremely dangerous for people walking or cycling along the road. Many local students walk to school or to the bus stop. The road is not wide enough for 2 cars to pass, which means they have to drive into the ruts at the side of the road, which could potentially cause damage to people or their vehicles. Next photo, please. Residents are continually having to purchase gravel and rocks to fill the deep holes in their driveways, only to have them wash away when the next rainfall occurs. On top of that, we have a public bore water supply in Mullis Street, where large numbers of trucks and cars with trailers are regularly filling up their water pods all year round. Some of these vehicles carry up to 3 pods, which are extremely heavy and are further contributing to the damage in the street. Next photo, please. And next one. So that's at the bottom of the water pod. The road is so narrow near the bore that 2 vehicles cannot pass each other safely, which has been risen as a concern for a family who live nearby. At least 6 residents have made numerous complaints to council since November 2021, with 1 resident calling 7 times. During discussions with council staff, we are told that the emergency repair team would be in the area on the 7th or 8th of April to temporarily address the problem, but that didn't happen. Then it would be repaired by Easter, and that didn't happen either. Then I received a letter from Jed Brennan advising that initial works in Mullis Street are programmed to be complete by the end of May 22, and we're still waiting for that as well. We've been told there are no funds being allocated to fix the road problems, So it's little wonder the residents feel like they live in the forgotten village. And the Tingora Public Hall. The Tingora Public Hall is in a state of disrepair and degrades the look of the village, and I question why it has been neglected for so long. Next photo, please. It has broken windows, holes in the walls, and at the front, a wire security fence surrounding it due to vandal damage, and I feel it should never have been allowed to get into this state. Next photo, please. In March 2020, several community members met with Councillor Height, Leanne Peterson and Mel from the Building Department to discuss the hall. We were told it would cost far too much to bring it back to the standard required by law, and that Council would have to look into the legalities of the ownership of the land before any action could be taken. In May 2021, the hall was discussed at Council Standing Committee. Leanne Peterson discussed the legal advice given about the ownership issue, and the first step would be to call a public meeting. A decision from councillors was deferred until September 2021, when more information could be obtained. It is now June 2022 and nothing has changed. Tingora ratepayers are questioning why our council will be contributing up to $225,000 for urgent repairs to the Mondure Hall when ours falls further into disrepair. Whilst at the Bondi Market recently, a stall holder mentioned she attended dances there in the 1960s and the hall was falling into a state of disrepair back then, which is now 60 years ago. The neglected state of the hall is seen by many people, not only residents of Tingora. There are students and families, staff and visitors to the school, students using the bus stop, those driving past on their way to work or going shopping, and also visitors to the area on their way to the Proston Dam. In summing up, not only are the roads, curb and channelling and drainage and public hall in urgent need of attention, but also the Tingora tennis court. Next photo, please. Which is still used on a regular basis by the public and also by the teachers and students at school. Only one of the two courts can now be used due to the unsafe condition of the other and the potential safety concern for players. And finally, the sports ground. Next photo, please. That not so long ago hosted artists like Jimmy Barnes and Thirsty Merc has been let go, and the toilets are in such a poor condition they are unusable and permanently locked. This is why the Tingora residents feel like they live in the forgotten village. Thank you for listening.
Good morning, Deputy Mayor, councillors and council staff. My name is Mark Elliott and I have lived in Tingora for almost 5 years. I wish to outline a very brief history of my previous background. Until my retirement, I was a Queensland police officer for 35 years, with 16 of those years as a forensic crash investigator and also several years as a crime prevention and community safety officer. In that role, I was qualified to and often provided community safety audits, including factors affecting road safety. Most of those here today have seen personally or now have seen photographs showing the state of our street surfaces in Tingora. In my opinion, the current condition of these roads and surrounds are such that there is a continuous and significant risk of injury or damage to all residents and visitors to our village. I would now like to read to you a letter from the principal of Tingora State School. Dear Mayor Otto and councillors, normally I do not commit nor put pen to paper about my concerns or issues unless I believe it is for the safety and well-being of my students, their families and the staff of Tingora State School. Therefore, I write to you in regards to the flash flooding that began in November 2021. It was repeated numerous times over the past several months, and the effect these events have on our roads just down from Tingora School. In November last year, there was a significant rain event that caused flash flooding in areas that have not seen much or huge amounts of rain for years. The effects of this was a car rollover just metres away from the school gate, a lost or presumed drowned family dog, and a car rolling over and submerging in fast-flowing water. This was followed a couple of months later with another incident in almost the same spot, where water was running like a rapid across the road. Subsequently, the road has been torn up and damaged significantly. I do acknowledge and thank Council for their efforts to repair this area. However, the temporary solution to repair the road has not been successful. I pray that no one will be killed or suffer life-threatening injuries every time there is a heavy rain event due to the possibility of rapids flowing across the road. In my opinion, the problem is that the water cannot escape as it pools in this area due to the natural formation and contours of the land, and acts almost like a fast-flowing creek where it actually crosses the road. Repairing the road does little to prevent this from happening, and therefore the chance of further accidents in this area is concerning. I worry that it may be one of my students going to or from school next time. I therefore urge you to please do something to fix this potential life-threatening problem. On another note, I would like to raise the issue of the beautiful hall in Tingora village. It is with great sadness that I witness the ever-decreasing state of disrepair of the Tingora hall. There is a lot of history surrounding the hall, and it has held many fond memories for our community members, Tingora School family members and past students. Kindest regards, Julie Masterson, Principal, Tingora State School. Thank you for your time.
I've just got a petition I'd like to present to Council. To the Mayor and Councillors of the South Burnett Regional Council, Mark Pitt, CEO, Peter O'May, General Manager of Community Facilities, Jed Brennan, Acting General Manager of Infrastructure. The residents of Tingora demand that immediate permanent remedial actions are taken by the South Burnett Regional Council to fix the long-standing water runoff and drainage issues along various roads within the Tingora village, including but not limited to Muller Street, Magnuson's Drive, Hill Street and Holmes Street. This ongoing issue is now a major safety concern for residents. It's a public liability accident waiting to happen for Council, who will be held responsible should somebody be hurt. The way the water now runs off and drains is creating significant damage to public and private property during regular minimal rainfall events, and is now restricting access to residential homes, again a safety concern for residents. An example, in one case, an ambulance could not access a property in Muller Street in an emergency. The Tingora Public Hall is continually deteriorating and is now in such a state of disrepair, needing large amounts of money to rectify. We are demanding that Council organise a community consultation before the 30th of June 2022 to discuss plans required and actions needed to be taken to rectify the problem. We, the undersigned, hereby request that sufficient funds are allocated in the next budget to rectify these problems urgently. And this has been signed by 126 residents of Tingora who either live there or own properties, which represents 99.20% of the people who are asked to sign the petition. So if I could hand that on to, thank you.
Thank you, Leanne and Mark. Is there a chance that we can get a copy of your presentation there this morning, or at least get a copy of that so that we can have it, or organise to get that photocopied or something like that this morning, just so that we got a copy on hand as well? Is that possible? Again, thank you, Leanne and Mark, for making your presentation to the council this morning, and your petition has been received and noted, and that will progress through the system. So thank you all very much. We'll now move on to item 6.1, minutes of the Community Standing Committee meeting held on the 11th of May 2022. Okay, it's just been brought to light that we need a mover and a seconder that the CEO is responsible for the deputation, including the appointed speakers, notified in writing of developments or future actions as appropriate. Do we have a mover? Councillor Duff, seconder. Councillor Potter, thank you. All in favour? Oh, sorry, go to the vote. Unanimous, thank you. Okay, now we'll move back to 6.1, the minutes of the previous Standing Committee meeting held on the 11th of May 22. The officer's recommendation that the minutes of the Community Standing Committee meeting held on the 11th of May be received. Do I have a mover? Councillor Duff, seconder. Councillor Henchen. Any comments? They're in there, 7 to 26, all the previous conversation of the last Standing Committee meeting. Okay, no comments. We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 7.1, Rail Trail Development and the South Burnett Rail Trail Users Association. The motion is that the committee recommend to council that council responds to the recent deputation from the South Burnett Rail Trail Users Association with the following action by the 30th of September 2022. 1. Commence consultation with the SBRTUA and community stakeholders with a view to entering into a suitable tenure arrangement that will facilitate the SBRTUA becoming eligible for grant funding programs, rail trail infrastructure development and asset event management promotion. 2. Partner with the SBRTUA to undertake community engagement with a view to considering naming options for the SBRC section of the rail trail. 3. Scope and cost a rail trail development study as undertaken by the BVRT in recent years. And 4. Contact the following stakeholders to facilitate preliminary discussions as to the possible formation of an interregional rail trail advisory group, including representatives from South Burnett Regional Council, Somerset Regional Council, Gympie Regional Council, SBRTUA, BVRT, and other relevant community or government organisational stakeholders. Do we have a mover? Councillor Duff, seconder. Councillor Shoemaker. Comments? It's all there now if you want to have a look. Or any comments? Councillor Duff, speak to the motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. I'm really keen to see this supported. When we first started the negotiations to have a rail trail, I was one of the councillors who went to Victoria to have a look at what was happening with their rail trails, and one of the things where they had progressed was to actually have a community group take over the rail trail, and the advantage with that is council can step back, but also they can apply for grants. And because this particular group has got they're very, very keen, I'm quite sure that they will do, like if we could negotiate with them to have a lease over it, that they would actually do a better job than council, because they've actually got, absolute commitment and skin in the game, and I'm just really keen to see this progressed. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you. I am in support of the motion. I do have a couple of questions though, just in relation to point 1, with a view to entering into suitable tenure arrangement. I just wanted to confirm, at the moment we have a long-term lease with the Department of Main Roads and Transport. I just wanted to confirm the time frame of the 30th of September. Is that achievable with what's currently in the pipeline? And in terms of those suitable tenure arrangements, what's the feeling of our council in terms of being able to achieve that with our long-term lease? Is probably my questions to General Manager O'May.
Yeah, through you, through the chair. Yeah, so we have got I think it's a sub lease of the rail trail. So we lease it off TMR, who TMR leased it off the state. So yeah, we could, the 30th of September, I would think we would certainly be able to meet and consult with the Rail Trail Users Association and look at options there. I would think we wouldn't get, given the the time. I think it probably took us 2 years to get our lease sorted in there. So I think, yeah, you wouldn't get something in place, but we could certainly get the ball rolling. I think it would certainly, for a community group, would need to look at the options and what the implications of taking on the lease, whether it's the whole rail trail and what parcels of land. So yeah, I think there'd be a fair bit of negotiations and working out who's responsible. But yeah, we could certainly meet by then. But yeah, you wouldn't have anything in place, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, no, thank you for the further context. I'm fully supportive of the motion at hand. I think the presentation that we've got here before us that was made to council was excellent, and it really does, those facts and figures there just demonstrate the significant return on investment that the rail trail has for our region. And I think this resolution only enables us to better understand that and prepare for that into the future. I do, in terms of that tenure arrangement, I do think personally this can't be an asset that we just hand over and say it's now up to you to maintain and look after, because I think there's a lot of work that goes into that. And I think I would like to see council enter into more of a partnership arrangement with the group, which I know has been really successful with other rail trail projects. So I'm fully supportive of the motion. I think the presentation there is wonderful. It's just excellent to read that there are so many activities and events already happening every year on the rail trail, and our opportunity to only just better that by working together with our community, I think, is one that we do need to grab with both hands and take us forward into the future. So thank you. I'm supportive of the motion.
Thanks, councillor. Any other comments? I guess GM, just I think it's written in there, entering into a suitable tenure arrangement, and as Councillor Shoemaker's identified, the SBRTUA certainly wouldn't be capable of maintaining the surface or slashing or anything like that. So I think it'll be a partnership type thing, and they'll take upon and apply for grants and do other things along the rail trail that they see fit and work with council. Would that be a fair comment?
Yeah, through the chair, yeah, I tend to agree. I think it may be more like a management arrangement rather than an actual physical, taking over the tenure and maintaining the bitumen, the bridges, and all of the physical infrastructure. So yeah, we just will need to, and obviously we need to, as part of our lease with TMR, they need to be included and approved, any of those arrangements underneath our lease.
Thank you. Councillor Shoemaker.
Just with that in mind, Deputy Mayor Jones, could we, if Councillor Duff's open to it, just adjust point 1 into a suitable management arrangement? Or tenure arrangement. Yeah, maybe suitable management and or tenure arrangement. If that's okay, Councillor Duff.
Yes, that's fine.
Councillor Erkins.
I'm just wondering, the wording of it, probably the lease that they get or the agreement partnership, that would influence their ability to obtain grants. So you would need to make sure that they are able to get grants with the agreement.
Yep. Yeah, agree.
Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, that's exactly what I was going to say, Councillor Erkins, with regards to the wording and the enablement for grants. But I was also just going to say that when we first said yes to the rail trail back, it was one of the early decisions we made when I first got onto council in 2016. And what we're talking about now is how I actually envisaged the rail trail going, because I felt that council did not have the ability to be paying for the resurfacing and the maintenance and upkeep of the rail trail. We all know the expense that is costing. So I do believe that this will be a fantastic opportunity for us as council and for the rail trail the South Burnett Rail Trail Users Association.
Councillor Duff, any comments finishing up? Happy to go to the vote. Okay, the motion is as presented. We've had a little change there, so I'm going to have to read it all again. The committee recommend to council that council responds to the recent deputation from the South Burnett Rail Trail Users Association with the following action by the 30th September 2022. Commence consultation with the SBRTUA and community stakeholders with a view to entering into a suitable management and/or tenure arrangement that will facilitate the SBRTUA becoming eligible for grant funding programs, rail trail infrastructure development and asset event management promotion. And items 2, 3 and 4 were as read prior. So are we all happy to go to the vote? We go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. 8.1. I'll now hand over to Councillor Potter to present her portfolio report for community, arts, heritage, sport and recreation for the month of June.
Thank you, Chair. With regards to the community, the JT, the South Burnett Community Tour, the South Burnett Regional Council, with support from TRACE, which is the Tackling Regional Adversity Through Integrated Care for Queensland Health, proudly hosted the JT Academy with the South Burnett Community event. He visited the local high schools presenting his JT Believe program, which is designed to help young people learn about themselves and increase their confidence, courage and self-belief. Over the 3 days in the South Burnett, JT presented to over 2,340 Year 7 to 12 high school students, over 40 people at the Mergen Men's Shed, 100 people over 100 at the Tingora Chamber of Commerce meet and greet event, and over 400 people at the Tingora community event. The community event also hosted 15 trade displays, which gave our local mental health service providers an opportunity to connect with our community members and showcase their service and resources. Members of the South Burnett Regional Youth Council were also in attendance, selling raffle tickets and helping on the night. Community members had the option to travel on the community event, free buses from Poston, Highsville, Mergen through to Kingaroy, and then Blackbutt through to Kingaroy as well, taking in all the towns in between. The South Burnett Regional Youth Council Bacon Fest presentation, and one of the projects identified by the South Burnett Regional Youth Council is to coordinate an annual event to bring young people together in a fun and safe environment, drug and alcohol free. The Kingaroy Bacon Fest invited the Youth Council to present an idea for an event targeting the 12 to 17 years for this year's festival. 5 Youth Council members attended the Bacon Fest meeting last week to propose an I Got You Babe Battle of the Bands and Music Festival to be included at Bacon Fest. This supervised event will provide a fun and inclusive program, including the opportunity for all our audience to vote for their local favourite bands on the day. There's a little bit of change to this one because the Bacon Fest chief Baconeer attended yesterday afternoon's Youth Council meeting to discuss the outcomes of their presentation, and I'm very happy to say that the Kingaroy Bacon Fest has accepted their proposal with a few different tweaks. So the South Burnett Regional Youth Council is on their way to organising their first major event, which I'm very excited about. The South Burnett Suicide Prevention Working Group will be having the next meeting this afternoon, and up for discussion will be the Depressed Cake Shop along with the next Winter Warmers event in August. We are very blessed also to have some incredible businesses and people within the South Burnett that will always be willing to help when it comes to Relay for Life. And Cricket for Life was a great event, and I look forward to seeing the end results on the donations page of the South Burnett Relay for Life webpage. National Simultaneous Storytime. The South Burnett Library celebrated National Simultaneous Storytime on the 25th of May with children from local kindies and schools as they visited their libraries to join in the fun. It was read at 11 a.m. right across Australia, and this year's book was Family Tree by Joshua Pike, and it was a hit with all the children in attendance. They asked lots of questions and enjoyed interpreting the story in many different ways. Kingaroy Library had 33 attendees for the morning. Nanango had 20 visitors from St Patrick's, while Julian Proston had a lovely visit from 9 patrons. Lucy from Lutheran Services is attending the 6 libraries during late May and early June for the informative talks for the seniors in the South Burnett by providing the right contacts for individuals on their aged care journey. Lucy assists with concerns, barriers and any worries that our community members may have as they seek support with care packages that are available. Tingora Library hosted the first session with 12 attendees who had many questions for Lucy, and the 9 patrons gave feedback on their session being very informative, and Lucy was easy to understand. The Child Health Partnership resumes with the South Burnett Libraries, and they're very excited to announce that their partnership with Child Health has resumed after COVID, the impact of COVID, and the delivery of drop-in clinics held at the library earlier this year. The clinics, which will be held fortnightly at the Blackbutt Library, monthly at the Kingaroy Library and weekly at the Nanango Library, are a fantastic way to introduce new families to the resources available to them from their local library, whilst new mums and dads visit with a child health nurse. Library staff are available to chat with parents and caregivers about the First 5 Forever initiative and how rhyme time and story time sessions can benefit the early literacy development. The Mums and Bubs program hosted at the Proston Library has been a wonderful success, with many new families learning more about the services provided both at the library and by local community organisations. The weekly sessions each featured a guest speaker with representatives from the Queensland Ambulance, Queensland Health and Bush Kids in attendance to discuss many topics related to early childhood development. In total, 46 people attended the 4 sessions, with many very keen to return to the library each fortnight to take part in the First 5 Forever rhyme time sessions. The junior area revamp in the Blackbutt Library has recently been done, with new shelving installed to highlight the bright and vibrant collections, items available for young people to browse and borrow. New forward-facing shelves to encourage the exploration of books, whilst the new end table adds a place to sit and read. Feedback about the changes has been overwhelmingly positive, and it's hoped that the new layout encourages more children and their families to visit the Blackbutt Library. Under 8's Day, the South Burnett Libraries once again will be taking part in Under 8's Day at the Memorial Park in Kingaroy on Thursday the 30th of June 2022 from 9:30 to 12:30. This year's theme is Play in a Changing World. The library is proud to sponsor a special appearance by Mr. Dino Yippity, who's doing live shows and have children and parents in fits of laughter, singing, reading and bouncing along with his collection of scholastic chart-topping books and songs. And the library staff will also have craft activities available for attendees, and children will also have the chance to try out the library's puppet theatre. In addition to the library stall, many other local organisations, including Good Start CTC, will be set up on the day with free crafts, children activities for their families. Free sausage sizzle will also be available, and it's sure to be a fun-filled morning for families during the school holidays. And I'd like to add here that this is where the South Burnett Regional Council has organised through the Get Ready funding to have a big display of all the emergency services there, and the fireys will even be doing a kitchen fire demonstration, which I'm looking forward to. Not that I'm used to kitchen fires. Can I just add that with that bit of laughter there? So never ever been involved, touch wood. Okay, the medieval party will be at the Kingaroy Library on Saturday, the 2nd of July from 10 to 12 for a fun morning fanfare and celebrations of our medieval party. Prepare to come dressed as in your best medieval garb and take part in the free games, craft and other activities. That should be a fun morning because I'm actually dressing up for the day, so please come along and maybe don't bring your camera. The work experience, so the Kingaroy Library currently have a work experience candidate from the Kingaroy High School to gain work skills and abilities related to library services. Tasks carried out including unpacking deliveries of new items, shelving library returns and keeping the shelves neat and tidy. This partnership is providing Samantha with exposure to a customer service-based role, as well as gaining confidence to seek further employment when the school year ends. The South Burnett Libraries are outreaching again this year, so they were at the Nanango Markets on Saturday the 4th of June. They will be at the Under 8's Day on Thursday the 30th of June. The medieval party at the Kingaroy Library on the 2nd of July. They'll be at the Wando Twilight Markets on the 16th of July, and Bacon Fest pending the approval through Bacon Fest on Saturday and Sunday, August 2022. I might just leave that. There's quite a bit in here, so I might just leave the next part, if you don't mind, Chair, and I might just go back to the last bit of art stuff. So over the past few weeks, I was privileged to be invited to attend the Experimenting with Dry Pastels workshop with Evelyn Morrison and the Creative Writing workshop with Dino Yippity. Both these sessions were funded through Council's Regional Arts Development Fund, and it was amazing to see all these young people from our region so excited to participate in the arts. Thank you, Chair, and I'd like my portfolio report to be accepted. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Potter. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Shoemaker, comments, questions on the report? There's a fair bit in there. If not, we'll go to the vote. And the officer's recommendation that Councillor Potter's Community Arts, Heritage, Sport and Recreation Portfolio Report to Council be received for information. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 8.2, minutes of the Youth Council held on the 10th of May 2022. Councillor Potter, just give us a brief update and an outline on what's going on there. That's a bit of a success story for the council. The officer's recommendation that the committee recommends to council that council receive and note the attached minutes of the Youth Council held on the Tuesday the 10th of May 2022. And as you can see there in the pages right through until page 46, the minutes there. So do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, seconder. Councillor Duff, any questions, comments in regards to that? So the officer's recommendation that the committee recommends to council that council receive and note the attached minutes of the Youth Council held on Tuesday the 10th of May 2022. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 8.3, consideration of public auction for surplus equipment and furniture. The officer's recommendation that the committee recommend to council in accordance with section 227.228 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, it is proposed council offer surplus equipment and furniture for sale through a public auction. And you can see the next couple of pages there with an explanation. Do we have a mover? Councillor Henson, seconder. Councillor Potter, comments, questions? Councillor Shoemaker.
Just one question. There's a significant amount of items here that I noticed. I just wondered, in terms of the furniture pieces and alike, have we done an audit on our facilities or our council-owned buildings and facilities to ensure none of this equipment could be used in any of those current facilities and that they are in actual fact surplus to our needs?
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, so that's probably where these things have come from as we've been going through buildings and say chairs or things have been replaced, and certainly from the renovations that we've done, like the Nanango offices and even in here. But yeah, so most of it is all of it is just that has been assessed as surplus, and we're just storing it till it can be auctioned.
Yeah, I am just thinking. I recently attended a concert in a church hall that had terrible seats in it, and I'm just thinking, is there or have we done in the past? Have we opened up any opportunities for community groups to, make? I guess they may not actually be able to compete in the commercial market for some of these items, but if they were to put forward a request, can we consider that in this sort of environment, I guess is my question, General Manager O'May. I know it could complicate things. I'm just thinking about, the many community groups and different facilities around the place who actually might have a real use for this that would provide a benefit to our community. And if they were able to, put forward a request, they may not be able to compete from a dollar's point of view, but the outcome would be would better serve our community. So I'm just wondering if there is a process or a system that enables that to happen.
Yeah, through the chair. So probably the only way to facilitate that is if you did a closed auction of some sort of that was only available to your community groups. I'm not sure how you differentiate between two hall groups who would want, if you had two hall groups that were wanting to have those chairs or whatever it might be. So yeah, most of it is sort of the relatively low value. But yeah, it would logistically, I suppose, yeah, you would have to limit it back and to provide. But yeah, how you would actually differentiate between all of the different groups, if you did have two community groups wanting the same bit of gear, that will be a process. So I suppose it was thought if it was opened up and you had the opportunity for each group to put forward a bid.
Councillor Erkins.
Through you, Mr Chairman, I would think it would be similar to how you're getting rid of the mowers. You know, community groups could put in a submission for them.
Yeah, just on my views on that is I don't disagree with what the conversation's about, but you could nearly say or nearly half expect that any items that we have up for auction, there would be people with some sort of a claim to the use of them, and how do you put it behind closed doors to limit, if you're going to have an auction at all, and then you limit to a section of your community, does that put you in a little bit of a precarious position as far as being open, transparent? Councillor Erkins.
I think what you could do, you could first of all offer to community groups, you could have them put in a submission, you could go through, if there was anyone that you were considered worthy, you would take them then out of the auction and you would put the auction up with the things that were left.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, that's what I sort of envisaged it. If you were going to do it, you'd need to run a sort of a, yeah, I don't know, it's not really an auction, but run it like an auction or whatever, just the EOIs on the gear and things that weren't. Then you'd have to have some sort of assessment if you did have two groups, and whether it's a toss a coin or however you talk to those groups. But yeah, it'd be
Acting CEO. Yep.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Acting Mayor. Probably just the technical side of it there is that we do have the capacity to, these assets are written down to a zero, so we do have the capacity to dispose of them as per the regulations. So as Councillor Erkins did allude to, if it was the appetite to council and they did want to dispose of them to community groups, we could set the parameters there in line with how we've done that with the lawnmowers, and then again feed that through our community grants assessment panel, where they have the discretion as to who gets what, and we limit it to non-for-profit community organisations. So we do have the capacity to do that, so we would just look for the direction from council as to how to proceed.
So I'm just reading here the financial and resource implications. The surplus equipment and furniture hold very low financial value. Some of the items show high wear and tear, fading, damaged, dated, and no longer fit for purpose. So how would we, is that any cause for concern there? GM Omar?
yeah. Through you, yeah. It's the as is, where is type. As you said, yeah, you wouldn't be able to guarantee any life of a bit of equipment or something. Like I said, they are worn. Yeah, or it's all used equipment. So, yeah, it'd be basically have to be accepted as the condition as it is. So there probably just the only other thing on this, there will be logistically a cost of those groups coming in and interfering. So running that process will have, that will come at a cost. But yeah, obviously you're supporting those groups, but yeah, it is worth mentioning. So if people are inspecting or go and picking things through stores and that, it will.
Thanks, Jim. Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you. I guess I'm thinking, if we, as I read in the report, it would be that these, they're currently stored in council storeyard. I think I read Nanengo. The opportunity would be that we'd open up the gates of Nanengo and allow our community or whoever's looking to purchase this equipment to come through and have a look at it first before they make a bid in the auction. I guess I'm thinking at that point, could we offer this up to our community first? So potentially have a 2-week window where before the actual auction to, commercial people potentially, we open it up for 2 weeks and allow community to come in and take a look. they make an application to council at that point in time for the items at which they're interested in. And if, that comes through a council meeting, and if we deem that's all above board and relevant to those non-for-profit groups, would give them the stamp of approval, those items go out to the community and what's left goes to auction. That's sort of my thinking, and what I guess I'm thinking about with the leave of council is adding a point to this recommendation that sort of would enable that process to happen first, and then after that point, whatever's left, we sell it for whatever we can get for it. I've looked through the list of items here, there are some really good office chairs and things that I think, and, bookshelves and things. I know that there are community groups. There are a ton of filing cabinets there. I know they're, in the vicinity of $500 to buy a new filing cabinet. I just thought some of these items could actually offer value to our community, and being that we are already writing them off, that value may outweigh the actual dollars collected. So with the leave of council, I guess I'm thinking about adding another point to that recommendation, Councillor Henshin, or moving an amendment to the motion.
Yeah, Councillor Henshin, do you mind if we amend that the motion that's currently there that you moved through what Councillor Shoemaker has just proposed?
No, not at all, Deputy Mayor. And just looking quickly through the pictures, I guess one thing, and as you stated, Deputy Mayor, in relation to the items show high wear and tear, fading, damage, dated, no longer fit for purpose. If they're no longer fit for purpose, why would we even put them up? Like last thing you'd want to do would be to give communities or organisations half a dozen chairs that the legs are about to break off them. So that would be just a concern of mine, that if they're no longer fit for purpose, we would want to possibly go through that list again. And obviously it has been, or perhaps it has been, but this, in that wording of that, I would be concerned with any of those items no longer fit for purpose are in there, that they be excluded.
Yeah, just a question to the GM. That's probably a term of phrase that it doesn't suit what council needs it for and they're probably still good enough to put into the good enough to be used. Yeah,
and anything that's unsafe or broken wouldn't go through. It's really just where we have done renovations, like we've had the ones you see with the library gear, where we've had funding to update some of those things. So yeah, it's still, and most of the chairs are still in usable conditions. But yeah, they may have been updated over time. So this equipment is built up over a couple of years type thing. So it isn't, we haven't just done a big clean up. So you might ended up, you've had a broken chair and you've ended up with 3 chairs, not 4 chairs, and that sort of situation.
Councillor Erkins.
Yeah, when you said fit for purpose, just an example, and Mr. Chairman, you've been there, the Masonic Lodge in Nanango, they're using chairs that are an antique bentwood chair, but are pretty wobbly. And I'm sure, that would be a group that would be happy to have some chairs that were more solid. So, and I'm sure there are other groups that, they can't afford to go out and buy new ones, but these will be quite adequate for their use.
So just on what we're hearing, we need to wrap this one up. I think everybody in the room, Councillor Potter, come to you now.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I just want to say that according to Section 27 and Section 236, the regulation says that we can dispose to another government agency or disposal to a community organisation. And I do think that that's a really good idea, and especially considering there are some items in that would be suitable for kindies and things like that. So I think to give them the opportunity to have some of these items, it's very well worthwhile.
Yeah, thank you. So I think we're all on the same page and we all want to help the community in some way, shape or form. I was just playing the devil's advocate, just making sure that we were doing everything above board and all that sort of stuff. So I guess in hearing that, Pete, as far as the auction and all that sort of stuff, if we ask you to go away, put some consideration around that and maybe bring some information back, so maybe a procedural motion or something like that to leave it on the table just briefly until the next standing committee? Is that going to cause too much ruckus in the whole organisation?
No, that's fine. You could lay the matter on the table. We could certainly probably come back. Yeah, we can come back with an option of how we go through the community group first, to go through that process. Yep.
Councillor Shoemaker, just in finishing before we...
Yeah, no, I just, I'm not really supportive of that. I think there's a lot of items here that are in the warehouse. I think we have the framework in place to do this. I think it's in accordance with the section of the local government regulation. I'd like to move an amendment to the recommendation put forward. That the committee recommends to council in accordance with section 227-228 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. Yep, all of that. It is proposed council offers surplus equipment and furniture, just from where for sale, to community and not-for-profit organisations for disposal as per the community grants framework. And then point 2, enter down from where through a public auction. Yep. Point 2 is that any and that any remaining items after such a process takes place are offered for sale through a public auction. So I'd just seek a seconder for the amendment.
Councillor Potter.
Yeah, great, but can we take out for sale? I would just like to offer them to the community group. Number one, yeah, thank you. I'll second that one.
Okay, so we've got the amendment there that the committee recommends to council in accordance with section 227-228 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, it is proposed council offer surplus equipment and furniture to community and not-for-profit organisations for disposal as per the community grants framework. Now, just reading that, furniture to community and not-for-profit organisations. So that to me reads the whole community.
Community organisations.
Community not-for-profit organisations, take out the letter and. So that the committee recommends to council, item 1, in accordance with section 227/228 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, it is proposed council offer surplus equipment and furniture to community not-for-profit organisations for disposal as per the community grants framework, and 2, that any remaining items after such a process takes place are offered for sale through a public auction. We have it moved by Councillor Shoemaker, seconded by Councillor Potter.
Can I just...
Councillor Erkins.
Can I just add that as an auctioneer, I can tell you that after the community groups go through, what's left may not be worth taking to a public auction. You may want to hold them over for something else. So maybe if you put there in number 2, that then you make a decision on what you're going to do with the remaining items. You don't want to commit yourself to having to go ahead if you've only got a couple of things. A decision is made, I would say, on the remaining items after. You know, you make your decision on whether you're going to auction or not.
So that reads that remaining items after such a process that are suitable are offered for sale through a public auction.
No, I think should you put that a decision is made on the remaining items? Because if you've only got like a couple of those chlorine, you don't want to be committed to doing an auction.
So whack in that a decision is made on any,
On dispersal of the remaining items. After you, what's the name?
Right, we've got to wrap this up. We've spent a bit of time on it. So,
Yeah.
Councillor Henson. Come to Councillor Henson. I'll come to you shortly, Councillor Duff. Sorry.
I don't think that reads right.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Perhaps could we, and as Councillor Erkins has alluded to, that after the auction we put a third dot point in there that any items left, and as you explained, Councillor Erkins, what's left is obviously what people don't want, that it be disposed of appropriately, because as Manager O'Meara has stated, this is going to come, like if we keep going round and round with this, I'm pretty sure that after community non-for-profit organisations and after an auction, what's left there, and we all know what's left at the end of auctions, is what nobody wants.
So I was saying that after the community organisation, maybe don't go to auction until you see what you've got left. Make the decision on whether you go, because if you've only got, half a dozen things, it's not worth going to auction.
I understand that, but perhaps in that, whether it be point 2 or point 3, that we note that what's left be disposed of appropriately. Otherwise, we're going to have stuff in a storeroom that it'll come back to council that what do we do with this? Will we go to offer it again or go to auction? I'm pretty sure when we've seen what's in our agenda is what's available, if they don't acquire it through their community organisations and through a possible auction, they don't want it.
Yeah, so I'll get Acting CEO Susan to just explain the legal advice there in regards to disposing that. She just whispered in my ear and it makes sense. So, CEO.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Acting Mayor. I just allude to the Mayor that probably the resolution that you require is the first there is to go to the community organisation, and operationally and legislatively we are obliged to follow process anyway, so I don't, it's my belief that you don't need to detail any actions past giving us the direction to go out to the community. Thank you.
Righto, last chance, Councillor Duff, you had your light on before we're going to wrap up here.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. Yeah, I was just really keen to see this happen, but I also thought some of those items that, same as what Councillor Erkins said, they're not going to be, they're going to mishmash of things, but perhaps like the men's sheds could be encouraged because they run those car boot sales. I mean, if they could grab those items, and then they can make further money out of them by selling them at a car boot sale. So that's another way to dispose of all of the items.
Righto. I think we've had plenty of discussion around that, and I think that amendment sums up what we're trying to achieve here. That the committee recommends to council item 1 in accordance with section 227 and 228 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. It is proposed council offer surplus equipment and furniture to community not-for-profit organisations for disposal as per the Community Grants Framework. And 2, that a decision is made on the dispersal of the remaining items after such a process that are suitable offered for sale through a public auction. We have it moved by Councillor Shoemaker, seconded by Councillor Potter. Go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. So now we go back to the... We don't have to go back to the initial recommendation because it did have a mover and a seconder there. So it's defeated. So it's lapsed. Okay. Yeah, so we do that. So we now need to move that the amendment now becomes the resolution or the recommendation. So do we have a mover? Councillor Duff, second to Councillor Henson. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll now break for morning tea at 10:12. We're 3 or 4 minutes late. We're supposed to go at 10:10, so we'll go and come back at 10:30. Yeah, coming. So it's 10:12. Do we have a mover for morning tea? Councillor Henson, seconder, Councillor Erkins. All those in favour? Thank you. We'll be have a quick cup of tea and back into action at 10:30. Thank you. Okay, we need to come back out of a break. Do we have a mover? Councillor Henson, seconded Councillor Potter. All those in favour? Unanimous. Okay, on to item 8.4. NATTA in-kind request. The officer's recommendation that the committee recommend to council that council approve the requested in-kind assistance to NATTA to support Nanango's 175th anniversary in 2023, subject to available resources, and 2, that council provides sponsorship to NATTA to support promotion of Nanango's 175th anniversary in 2023 via a financial contribution of $20,000. We'll open it up to discussion and comments around this. The report's there before we get a mover and seconder. Any comments? Councillor Erkins.
Through you, Mr Chair. I seen on television last night that I think it was Stanthorpe. They had the Queensland Government holding a meeting there celebrating their 150-year celebrations. So, you know, I'd just like to make sure that everyone is aware that 175 years, and it is a pretty good celebration for the whole region. So I'd just like to put that up.
Councillor Potter first.
Thank you, Chair. Just curious as to which, I do understand that 175 is tremendous. It's our oldest one within the South Burnett, and it's wonderful to see. I'm just wondering which pot of money this 20,000 in cash. I think the in-kind is great. I'm just wondering where the 20,000 is coming and, what bucket of money, where it's coming from.
GM.
Through the chair. Councillor Potter. So the 20,000 would probably need to come out of our out of your community grants budget. So this is before council, because this is outside the community grants program. Normally there's a maximum of $3,000 limit on assistance. So we have got the in-kind, so it would come out of that community grants program budget, which I would probably advise council we have actually reduced that with this year to previous years. So that budget has been reduced. So this would be a fair proportion of that budget. So without making a budget amendment, you will be sort of limiting what will be available going forward next financial year as far as supporting the other organisations through the grants community.
Councillor Henson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Erkins. I did see that last night on the TV, in fact, and not sure how I stumbled onto that because I don't watch a lot of TV, but it was wonderful to see that the state government's supporting Stanthorpe with 150 years. I'd like to know, has there been anything in relation to that approaching the state government, because 175 years is pretty special and there's not many of that has happened nor going to happen in this world that we live in today. And there was a great presentation given to council in the chambers here for everybody's knowledge, possibly some 3 or 4 weeks ago. And it's detailed there in front of us as to what's proposed throughout the year. Yeah, but I'd be interested to know that if the state government's willing to support Stanthorpe in the way they portrayed themselves last night, was very interesting, and I'd like to think that NAT is certainly pursuing them hard in relation to that report last night. So, look, this is certainly, and it's over a period of time. We have some time. Well, when I say we, and certainly Nanango NATA has time. It's a great great thing they're doing, Ian. Like I can't stress enough, 175 years. Doesn't matter. I've stipulated 100 years is a pretty special thing in this day and age, let alone 175. So a great thing. But yeah, personally, I think there's some work to do in this space, and perhaps could lay on the table as to whether NATA could source and put some pressure on the state government to see what they can do with 175, because that's well up on Stanthorpe's 150.
Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you. I certainly agree. I think it's hugely significant and a really exciting time for our region. I just wanted to check with I'm fully supportive of the in-kind assistance. I think it's quite an ambitious calendar of events that the NATA group have put together here, which is exciting. And there are just a few items there in relation to the in-kind assistance. Just thinking about other applications we've had where we've had to negotiate some of those items. I wanted to just check, like, free entry to the Nanango Aquatic Centre just with our swimming pool contracts. Is that something that we can actually approve? Upgrade of the old Nanango Cemetery in the miscellaneous items. I just wanted to understand what that actually meant and entailed. Unfortunately, I was unavailable for the NAPTA meeting. I had another meeting at that time. And there was also, the gardens in the CBD area upgrade. I was curious about that one. I think Nanango's got some of the most beautiful gardens in South Burnett. And the fairy lights for the CBD area. I think, just seeing what the Wandai community and those few community champions have done, those trees look beautiful. I can see why we'd want to put fairy lights in the CBD area. I just don't know whether we actually own any for that purpose. So there's some of my questions. I'd just like some clarity from GMO May in relation to some of these in-kind items and whether we actually need to negotiate or whether we can deliver on all of them. Yeah, just seeking some guidance there.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, so the in-kind is the miscellaneous items, and that was a discussion at the meeting, were items that we weren't necessarily committing with, but the committee were bringing it to council's attentions, either the type of things that they could see that would help smarten up the town. So it was more to working with our parks and gardens, like just to make sure that we were aware of when their events were on. So when we were having our flower shows, or if we could investigate things like fairy lights. So yeah, we weren't actually committing to those miscellaneous items. The upgrade of the Nanango Cemetery we talked about, so whether we can work with community groups or whether there's some sort of small in-kind that we can do. So just making sure that generally the town was at its best for the year as much as we can. So the in-kind was more providing that support so they knew through the year. And each of the individual events would generally be eligible for in-kind, so they would add up through the year, but it was just more trying to just bulk them together. As we know, yes, that they can rely on, we can provide bins and those sort of things for those carnivals and events. So the miscellaneous ones were more discussion points and making us aware of just their thoughts that we could work with over the year.
Thank you. And
Councillor, I've got to get a mover and seconder to discuss the recommendation. So, do I have a mover that the committee recommend to council that council approve the requested in-kind assistance to NATA to support the Nanango's 175th anniversary in 2023, subject to available resources? 2, that council provide sponsorship to NATA to support promotion of the Nanango's 175th anniversary in 2023 via a financial contribution. Keeping in mind we have a mover, a seconder, we go back to finishing off the debate, and we can have amendments and all that sort of stuff. So that's not set in gold. So do we have a mover? Councillor Erkin, seconder, Councillor Duff. My apologies. Sorry, Councillor Shoemaker, back to you.
no, I thought in the standing orders we could actually have conversation before we made a motion. But nonetheless, fully supportive of the motion. I just would like to know, in terms of that financial contribution, so we're saying $20,000 is actually outside the normal amounts that we give, and the ceiling would be $3,000, or if we were to provide $20,000, that would cut our capacity to support other community groups. I just want to confirm, what would our actual budget be for community grants if we were to give the entire $20,000 to NAPTA for their celebrations?
Yeah, through. So for this, so we have reduced by 15,000 the allocation in the budget. So if we took the 20,000 off this to start with, then there would also, you'd be down to, I think it's 50,000 would be your available allocation. So last year we had, so you'd have $25,000 per round. So for your community assistance, last year we had 42.5 for in each round of community assistance, which was fully utilised, or this financial year, I mean. So we had 42.5, so that would mean you'd be down to on the current budget 25 for each of those rounds. The other impact is the in-kind. So with this, like, it will all add up, sort of thing. So that comes out of that overall budget as well. But it's normally careful. But yeah, the more in-kind you do, it does have a bottom line impact. But it's just hard to budget for that.
Councillor Erkins, and then we'll go straight to Councillor Duff.
Through you, Mr. Chair. If I could just clarify a couple of things. I know that one of the things that they are asking about is the roundabout structure in Drayton Street, and they were looking at putting some signs up. Are they able to do that, or they need to have main roads because that's in the main street?
Yep.
Main roads approval. Okay.
Yes. Acting Manager GM Lowe. We've got too many lights on, guys.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yes, that's be correct. You'd have to consult with Main Roads to get approval for any signage to be placed on those areas there. That would include the diagonal on the entrance to town as well.
Councillor Hanshin.
Just, yeah, look, certainly supportive of the in-kind. That's not an issue, and it equates to roughly $10,000 odd. At this point in time, couldn't support the $20,000, but also bring to Chamber's attention that Cumbria on the 3rd, roughly off the top of my head, of September is actually celebrating their 100 year as well. So, and at this point in time, they haven't come with a presentation at all. But as I stated, anything that's 100 years and over is pretty special, and certainly reiterate again, would like to see NATTA certainly pursue the state government. If they can do something for Stanthorpe with 150, I would like to think that the state government would go into bat for Nanango and the South Burnett with this particular event. Thank you, Deputy.
Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. Yeah, just Prosper's also celebrating 100 years next year as well. But my point was going to be that I'm thinking that because we're supporting a number of different events across Nanango because of their 175 years, that our policy would actually kick in. So all those events that we're actually supporting with in-kind and financially, then they wouldn't be allowed to then ask for any more money. So perhaps that would take the pressure off our grants budget in any case, because they would have already been covered off.
Yeah, I think, not sure with that, because this is more really to do signage and just specific around the 175. So the individual events that are going to be held, they're still going to need to come forward for bins and that. So the individual events will still need funding. So yeah, a lot of this is like they have obtained a quote to do that signage, and it's basically signage for the 12 months, which would advertise, the races or whatever events. But yeah, each of those other events would still need to come forward for their assistance.
Through you, Deputy. But the in-kind is for all of those events. I was led to believe the in-kind. Well, then once they ask for in-kind, they can't have a cash contribution. So all those events would be getting the bins and all of that stuff. So as part of our policy, they wouldn't be eligible as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, so in kind, as GM O'May said right from the word go, this is outside our policy. So yeah, but the money would come out of the grants funding bucket of money, so it would reduce that by 20,000. But this is a decision that's outside of policy. Councillor Potter.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Look, I personally would like to, I don't know whether I'm allowed to do this, but I'd like to move the motion that we agree to the we agree to the in-kind. And with regards to the 20,000, I would like to move that we support NATDA in contacting state government to see if they will actually help with that funding for the event. But I think we also do need to keep in mind that some of that signage that they want for the roundabout may not be acceptable according to main roads. So I think that's probably another little conversation that you need to have with the TAC. But yeah, so I would like to, I think the point number 1 is great, but I think that if council could support NATDA with contacting state government to help provide backing for the 175 years, I think that would probably be the best move for now. Thank you.
Councillor Jones, I would second that, providing that we put a third point, Councillor Potter, that council provides sponsorship to NATDA to support promotion of the Nananga's 175 anniversary via a financial contribution of $3,000, which is the maximum amount we can allocate to a community group through our community grants framework. So I just want to confirm that $3,000 is correct still with the changes that we've made. I think that the application put forward is excellent. I think it's a wonderful opportunity, and I think we should make a financial contribution in line with the financial contributions we make to every other community group or event.
So we need to have an amendment made to the that the committee recommend to council. So who are we going to have make that amendment? Councillor Potter?
Yeah, as I said before, so point number 1, I think, is correct. I do agree with Councillor Shoemaker's point number 3. But point number 2 would be that council provides support to NATDA in contacting state government to help with, I think I might need a bit of help with wording here, to help with funding for NATDA's 175 years. I might just take your thoughts and ideas on that one, Acting CEO.
Councillor, I would recommend there that council provides support by way of, a letter of support possibly to NACTA in their endeavour to seek additional funding from the state government, possibly. Yeah, additional funding to support their 150 Nanango 150th year celebrations. Yeah.
I think, Bree, you can take that via a financial contribution of 20,000 out of that on the end of it. Yeah, take that out of that. Yep. And then we go, take that right out. Yeah. And then Councillor Shoemaker, do you want to add yours?
Yes, thank you. Just number 2 with the 3 instead of 20,000.
Sponsorship to NACTA to support promotion of the
Well, they'll need to apply.
175th anniversary in 2023 with a financial contribution of $3,000. That is the ceiling amount that we give other community groups. $3,000, yep. The council provides a letter to NATDA in their endeavour to seek additional funding to support. Yep, and the council provides a sponsorship to NATDA with a financial contribution of $3,000. Yes, can I just confirm with General Manager O'May that $3,000 is our ceiling amount?
Yeah, that's the if we give a cash contribution for any programs or community, it's a $3,000 limit in that. But yeah, so as Councillor Duff said before, generally it's offset. They either might have in kind or that. So the 3,000 is the limit for that.
So just on item number 2, before we go to Councillor Erkins, between the words additional and funding, can we add the additional state funding? State government funding? So the council provides a letter of support to NATRA in their endeavour to seek additional state government funding to support the Nanango 175th anniversary in 2023. Okay. Councillor Erkins?
If I can just verify that, does that still allow other organisations that are going to be part of the NAPTA celebrations? For example, the History Room are going to be looking at doing a function. Are they still eligible to apply for a grant, or does this negate any other?
Through the chair, I think so. This wouldn't negate other organisations applying for additional assistance. So so if there was in that example, they would just apply through the normal round and they would be eligible. My understanding of this is a bit more specifically and overarching to support the 175th anniversary. It's not necessarily supporting the typical, like the NATTA event, because they're actually of the event program. They'll be running 2 or 3 events. So I think the way I'm reading this is council supporting the 175th as a whole, for the whole community, not individually just NATTA's events.
Councillor Duff, would need to wrap this up
Thank
again
you,
shortly.
Deputy Mayor Jones. I'm just thinking that just limiting their opportunity to seek additional state government funding, perhaps like they might be able to get it from the federal government. I know that in the past, David Littleproud has given money towards different anniversary events. So I'm just thinking that we just need to open that up.
Councillor Erkins, any more comments?
No.
Yep, got your light on, that's all. Yeah,
So I'll second that, Deputy Mayor Jones.
okay. So we just, again, so we've got the amendment there in front of us, that the committee recommend to council that that council approve the requested in-kind assistance to NATRA to support Nanango's 175th anniversary in 23, subject to available resources. 2, the council provides a letter of support to NATRA in their endeavour to seek additional state and federal government funding to support Nanango's 175th anniversary in 23, and 3, that council provides a sponsorship to NATRA to support promotion of Nanango's 175th anniversary in 23 with a financial contribution of $3,000. So, $20,000, as Pete's already alluded to, $50,000 for the community grants funding. Knowing that we've got Proston, knowing that we've got Cumbria, and I'd highly think that those communities will both come in as well. So, but yeah, taking into account that we do need to support, it's been recognised, the 175th anniversary, fully aware of that, and we need to, my view is that we need to support the third oldest town in Queensland, I believe. So we really do need to be conscious of that fact going forward. And so I'm good to hear that any other individual community organisations over there won't be hindered by this particular thing, so they have the right to apply for that 3,000, so they can get, there could be another 3 or 4 applications come in and they'll eventually get it. So, yeah. So we've got the amendment there. As I've read, it's moved by Councillor Potter, seconded by Councillor Shoemaker. We go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. All righty. That takes us through to the... Oh, that's right, yeah. What have we got to do there? We've got to move, we need a mover and a seconder for that to be the resolution, that's right. So do we have a mover and a seconder to be the resolution that goes to the council? Councillor Pitt there, a CEO.
Mr. Chair, I did miss it earlier on, or half quarter. When an amendment is passed, the amendment automatically becomes a resolution. So you don't need a new mover and seconder. The debate restarts or you can recycle the debate. So the amendment becomes a resolution, and then you vote on the final resolution. So you don't need someone to move that it becomes the resolution. So you'll need just, if there's any further discussion on it now, is a substantive resolution, and if not, it goes straight to the vote, Chair. if that helps.
So, yeah, so we just move straight into the vote. Go again now, all in favour, we just go straight through. Is that correct?
Yes, thanks, Chair.
Okay, so I'll go to the vote again. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. That's now the resolution to go to council. Item 9.1, the portfolio for rural services, natural resource management, planning and compliance services. I'll now hand over to Councillor Henson to make his presentation for the month of June.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, gives me pleasure to present this, of course. Rural Service, Natural Resource Management and Weed Management. Ongoing wet weather conditions combined with warmer than average temperatures have extended the growing period of key weed species into late autumn. This late growth has meant an extended surveillance and control period on council and state-controlled roads for species such as Parthenium and giant rat's tail grass. Council recently lodged its key weed priorities and funding requirements for weed management on state-controlled roads on behalf of the Department of Transport and Main Roads. The funding request from the department has increased by 50% over previous years in an effort to arrest the increasing spread of giant rat's tail grass and Parthenium on the state-controlled road network across our region. Emerging weed species such as yellow bells and paulownia trees have also been listed as priorities for control, with very limited distribution throughout the South Burnett state-controlled road network. The key active ingredient in herbicides used for the control of giant rat's tail grass is currently unavailable or in very short supply due to the supply chain shortages coming out of China and other countries that provide base ingredients for herbicide formulations. Many producers and weed control contractors are finding it virtually impossible to purchase herbicides used for the control of giant rat's tail grass and African love grass. And unfortunately, no foreseeable supply improvements are on the horizon, and there are real concern from stakeholders that these chemical formulations will all but disappear in coming months, leaving producers with very limited options for controlling these key weed species. And this is another classic example of supply and demand, not just in chemicals, but across the board that we talk about in this chamber regularly. And there's nothing we can do about it. Wild dog and feral pig management. The council-led coordinated wild dog and feral pig control program scheduled to run from the 16th to the 23rd of May. It was delayed by a week due to the wet weather. Despite the challenging weather conditions though, 30 landholders participated in the program with over 234 kilograms of wild dog baits and 75 kilograms of feral pig bait disseminated over 11,265 hectares. A further 10 landholders unable to participate in the May campaign due to ongoing wet conditions will be baiting in the first week of June, and participation in this campaign was similar to previous years. However, more landowners are encouraged to join the campaign. Increasing the program's footprint will ensure wild dog and feral pig populations are suppressed over a more extensive area, producing a greater degree of suppression and control. Meet the planned fire management, in the 2022 fire management schedule for council reserves is ongoing, with fire trails being re-established throughout all reserves scheduled to receive prescribed burns under the 2022 program. The continued wet weather is preventing burn-offs taking place and narrowing the available window that rural fire brigades have at their disposal to undertake planned burns before unsuitable climatic conditions return. And on that, I've had numerous communication with landowners. We have a huge amount of fuel this year that come in the spring season, end of August, September. Possibility of huge fire risk is there and evident this year with the amount of fuel that's on the ground. And that is everywhere, just not on our roadways, but in our reserves, but in properties alone. Equipment loaned to landowners. Splatter guns for the control of lantana were provided to landholders in the Nanango, Burrendown and Cumbia districts. And council spray trailer was assigned to a landholder in Tingora for the control of lantana, and a dog trap was loaned to a landholder in the Cobbs Hill district, and a cat trap provided to a landholder in the Mergen area. And again, encourage residents and landholders in the South Burnett to contact council if in need of any of these equipment. Coolabunya sales yard staff conducted 282 cattle tick inspections and dipped 807 head. The rain delay saw 326 heads sold through the Coonabunya sale yards over the May period. The installation of key water infrastructure upgrades continues at the sale yards, despite the ongoing wet weather slowing progress, and over 50% of new water troughs and plumbing have been installed, with the remaining works set to be completed by early June, subject to the suitable weather conditions. And the photograph below shows the completed water troughing and rails installed in the small selling pens. And I might just add, thank you to General Manager Mark Watt and our Coonabunya Working Group to have implemented those troughs and those rails. That's a step forward in the management of those Coonabunya sale yards. So thank you very much for the work done in that space to you and the staff, along with the guys out in that complex. Planning and building. Council recently offered a position to the successful building certifier applicant. However, sadly, it was turned down. The building section will continue to utilise the services of a private certifier. The planning team responded to 115 customer requests as of the 1st of the 6th, 2022, and 6 pre-lodgement meetings were held in May. The following planning applications received were material change of the use, or MCU, 4 development applications, which is a motorsport facility, short-term accommodation, dwelling house, and a change to lot configuration of structure plan in stage 3 of the Oasis estate. In reconfiguration of a lot, 8 development applications. There was 5 subdivisions, 1 lot into 2 lots. There was a subdivision of 1 lot into 4 lots and 2 access easements. There's a subdivision of 1 lot into 4 lots and a subdivision of 1 lot into 8 lots with an access easement in proposed lot 5, and 1 application received for the Development Incentive Scheme. State Government recently updated the panel of pre-approved LGIP appointed reviewers. This forms part of the local infrastructure planning, guidance for local governments and applicants, and LGIP is required to be reviewed every 5 years. And Council's LGIP commenced on the 1st of July 2019. Council has an online version of the infrastructure charges register and it's automatically updated monthly. Amendment to the planning scheme. As required through Community Committee meeting in May, a visual summary of vacant or large underutilised sites for Blackbutt, Kingaroy, Mergen, Nanango, Proston and Wandai has been compiled and provided to all councillors. This investigation concludes that there is sufficient land available for residential and rural residential development. Council's current planning scheme was adopted and implemented in 2017. The planning schemes are designed to ensure that land use planning has very least a 10-year horizon, which means that there will be at least 10 years supply of land that is appropriately zoned and able to be serviced to meet the planned demand within the local government area. It is reported that SBR has a low project population growth rate, i.e. from 2016 to 2041, is projected to increase 0.5% per year over 25 years. And Queensland overall has a project population increase of 1.6% per year over 25 years. Interesting statistics. Environmental health compliance. There are currently 220 licensed food premises in the South Burnett region. There has been 1 new non-for-profit certificate, 1 new temporary food permit, and there have been 17 food business inspections undertaken during this period. Environmental health officers are busy attending to customer requests and routine food inspections across the region, and there has been 41 new CRMs raised during May for environmental health complaints, public health matters. These range from inquiries about food licensing, smoke nuisances, and public health and safety concerns. Environmental health has received further updates from the DDPHU in regard to the changes to public health directions within Queensland during May. And no update has been received for April and May period for the mosquito-borne disease notification in the region. To date, there has been 11 Ross River notifications for 2022. Perhaps that's our councillor beside me, Potter. Are you one of those 11?
No.
Okay, that's good to hear. EHOs and water and wastewater assisted in hosting at St John's Primary School students' class and Griffith University the third environmental health science students visiting council facilities as part of their studies. The primary school is studying processes in water and wastewater and benefit greatly by attending the Tingora sewage treatment plant and the Gordon Brook water treatment plant. And I guess Manager Lowe would like to see those students progress through more rapidly so he could get some assistance in that field. The third year uni students were provided a range of experience in the South Burnett, including visiting the Tingora sewage treatment plant and the Gordon Brook water treatment plant. Septic system processes, environmental and public health risks in a small town setting, caravan park inspections at BP Dam Caravan Park, and hands-on mosquito surveillance, catching a mosquito larva and using a microscope to understand the identification of mosquito larvae, and visiting the Tingora Visitor Information Centre. Environmental health also provided in-depth discussion about being a local government officer in a rural setting, encouraging the next professionals coming through uni to come west to the country. Just going to go back to the Coolabunna sale yards in relation to inspections, cattle tick inspections. Under the current climate, I'm not sure whether Chambers is aware, but under the weather conditions we've had, ticks at the present moment are absolutely rife. They have been incredible. We've probably seen numbers of ticks that we haven't experienced nor seen for a long, long period of time. And again, appreciate in those circumstances, and I hope it doesn't happen, that chemical availability does not ease, because I personally have not seen ticks in the South Burnett like I've seen in the past coming weeks, and some of them are getting resistant strains to certain chemicals. And I encourage people to be seriously diligent about the inspection and the dipping of the cattle tick, because our cattle tick line is a serious tool, and as Councillor Duff would agree with, it is an extremely important tool. We have a tick line, and the difference between tick-infested areas and cattle tick-free areas is hugely detrimental to, or could be, to our cattle industry. So I encourage landowners and anyone involved in the cattle industry and the primary producers area to be very diligent in their tick management. We will see, I would expect to see in the coming months, even though it's winter, we're seeing incredible numbers, but coming into the spring months in September, October, under the current climate conditions, I think we will have major concerns in the tick. Hopefully I'm wrong. So with that, Deputy Mayor, I'd like to present my report for the month of May be reported and accepted. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. We have a seconder. Councillor Shoemaker, comments, questions? Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. I did just have a question in relation to the amendment to the planning scheme. From what I've been able to find, REIQ reported their third quarter March that the South Burnett's rental, we have a decade low vacancy rate of 0.2%, and the healthy rate's actually seen at 2.6 to 3.5%. I bring this to Council's attention because we've also seen an increase in our population of 1.23%. This past year, that's as at June 2021, which is actually much higher than the 0.5% increase here over the next 25 years that's been noted on page 80. And I guess I'm bringing this to Council's attention because I want to understand better the statement made here that Council's current planning scheme was adopted and implemented in 2017. Planning schemes are designed to ensure that land use planning has at the very least, I'm guessing, a 10-year horizon, which means that there will be at least 10 years supply of land that is appropriately zoned and able to be serviced to meet the planned demand within the local government area. It's reported that SBRC has a low projected population rate from 2016 to 2041 to increase at 0.5% per year over 25 years. Queensland overall has a projected population increase of 1.6% over per year over 25 years. I guess just based on the information that I know on the back of the COVID pandemic, the Great Southern Migration, the push that's happening from the southeast corner out into our area, I just want to understand in terms of the statement that we're making here, have we actually identified through the planning scheme amendment that we have that 10-year supply of land, Or are we saying that we're doing work to understand that? I just don't fully understand the comment in the report.
Through the chair, yes. Look, in relation to the planning scheme amendment, that's the whole idea is to identify what our capacity is. And in relation to having a land bank supply, has it's the correlation between that and community housing availability is a different matter. Having the land available that is appropriately zoned for for someone to subdivide for the residential use is a matter of land bank supply, and that's what it's referring to. Those statistics are government statistics in relation to projected population increases. However, that is reviewed regularly, and I propose that we can, Council, we get in discussions tomorrow. There is a planning scheme workshop tomorrow, but those figures are reviewed regularly, but they're on an overarching population projection, having regard that there may be spikes in the population and people coming here recently or more recently. There is a divergence between the population and the building activity, and at the moment there is a low availability of housing because the building activity probably in that area hasn't kept up to speed in relation to that part of the housing component. So, but that is the projected population for the South Burnett is 8.5, sorry. So we're just alluding that to Council's attention. The planning scheme workshop will go into more detail tomorrow, and we'll have those maps were provided just to show you schematically how much land is available. So land is out there. It could be subdivided. Some people are either don't wish to or land banking it for whatever reason. So that's why we just wanted to allude to those figures, because I was quite surprised at those figures myself. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. I just think, that workshop and the work that's happening on the planning scheme is really important. I just think those figures there, it would be interesting to know, did the state government give us that 0.5% figure, and is that current and relevant, is my question.
Through the chair, I believe that's the current and relevant figure from the state government.
Yeah, I would like to know more about where that figure came from, because like I said, the estimated resident population actually states that it's actually increased 1.23%, and I know we're waiting on the census data, so that'll give us more clarity next year. But yeah, that's certainly a really important aspect of the work that we're doing that we cannot lose sight of there. So thank you for the clarification.
Okay, so we'll move on there now. We've got the resolution or recommendation that Councillor Henson's Rural Services, Natural Resource Management, Planning and Compliance Services Portfolio Report to Council be received for information. We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 9.2, Natural Resource Management Operational Update. That the Natural Resource Management Operational Update be received for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, second to Councillor Duff. You can see that all the activities going on at the back there. Acting Manager Watt, if you want to give us a very quick and brief overview, all good. It's all pretty self-explanatory, I think. So we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 9.3, Planning and Land Management Operational Update. That the recommendation is that the Planning and Land Management Operational Update be received for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Henson, second to Councillor Shoemaker. And again, it's all there for you all to have a look at. Any questions before we go to the vote? All self-explanatory. Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. 9.4, Contract Review Biosecurity Services. The officer's recommendation that the report be received for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Duff.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Jones, I'd like to move that an amendment to the recommendation that we do a revised tender with separable activities as per the report. So, yeah, just want to move that because, yeah, there's options in the report, and I think that we need to declare which one we're interested in.
So, yeah, just Councillor, can you just talk with Bree to get this right, the amendment?
So in the report, it says that the revised tender with separable activities is an option. So I'm just wanting to, rather than just accepting the report, that we actually do the revised tender with separable activities. That we choose that one as opposed to, it's got advantages and disadvantages, that we actually choose that one as opposed to what we normally do and going out to tender just for the one contract.
So separate contractors.
Councillor Henson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Well, it states there, Councillor Duff, just that. Identified that there may be tendered and awarded to more than one contractor, so that's our option, is to do just that. Halfway down page 92, it revised tender, and it says identifying separate portions in the tender, consideration was given to ensure there's no risk. So that gives, I would assume that gives council, correct me if I'm wrong, in relation to that council has that ability to award contracts to various, and it states that award to more than one contractor or a single contractor, depending upon value for money outcome. So that I'm assuming that's in the report, Deputy.
Yep.
I'll go to you, GM. GMMA, yep.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, so the two, I suppose the two options were identified as if we did put the tender out for one contractor to fulfil all the requirements, but as we had identified, you can put out as a revised tender with the separable activities, which would be the 4 different activities. You could have a Parthenium management with the Baramba catchment, the road maintenance RMPC contract, the surveillance component, and treatment and surveillance. So you would run the tender that they were 4 separable portions. One contractor may be awarded all 4, or you could have one contractor, but you could assess them as 4 separate components and issue them as 4 separate, rather than our previous tender was released as one contractor to do all of the portions. So yeah, we just identified the what we think appropriate separations of those tenders. Have listed down the advantages, disadvantages. Obviously, with separating out those, but those are the sort of things council can consider when they have the tenders back in, because there are advantages of having a single contractor. Disadvantage of that are advantages of having multiple contractors and disadvantages. So, yeah, I think Councillor Duff is just alluding that we include that we do the separable activities in the motion.
Councillor Duff.
That's right. Thought that this was just a report as to the pros and cons. So I'm just saying that I think that we should go with the revised tender with the separable activities. That's why I thought we had to, it was a consideration of establishing that, but it was a report to be brought back. So that's why I was just saying that I think we need to go down that path. Is that still relevant, or to actually put that, or that motion?
GM.
Yeah, I see no issue in identifying that it will be issued as separable portions. That's it. So it'll be just that the revised tender. Oh, yeah, you probably don't need the word advised in there.
Can I suggest an improvement to the wording here? That the tender with separable, I don't think it's appropriate to say is done, with separable activities is adopted as council's preferred option to review the contract. Third option. In the review of the contract for biosecurity services.
Yep, I'm happy with that wording. Thank you.
Okay, so the committee recommendation as it is now, that the committee recommend to council that the report be received for information that the tender with separable activities is adopted as council's preferred option in the review of the contract for biosecurity services, and that was moved by Councillor Duff, seconded by Councillor Erkins. I think we've had good conversation. Councillor Shoemaker, comments?
Just wanted to confirm, so the current, reading through the report, the current contract with K&S Contracting was actually adopted on the 12th of December 2018, and it says that for pest management services for a 12-month period and an option to extend the contract for 4 additional periods of 1 year. So I just wanted to confirm, yeah, current extension is in place until December 2022. So in terms of the time frame, we would be looking to go to contract or going to tender. What's your time frame for that process, General Manager Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. So I think the intent is that we would go to tender immediately and not invoke that last extension. I think that's the intention.
So just further to that, do we need to advise that, or that's clear enough here?
I think it's implied as part of the decision, but if you want to put it in there, you may. But when we extend, it's really done by officer extension, and we wouldn't be doing that. We would be going straight out to tender to comply, to revoke that last extension, or to not take up that last extension, if that makes sense, Mr. Acting Chair.
Yeah, I just wanted to check that you didn't need council's head of power or authority to do that. That's already part of normal process.
I think the CEO could probably extend, in my thoughts, but we won't be doing it in any case, Councillor. So, and I would take direction from the GM there.
Yeah, through the chair there, the intention was to release this tender so it would be in place at the expiry of the current extension rather than take up an option.
And just the budget amount there, then will that differ depending on what tender arrangements we make, or we've set that budget and then we'll work within that budget? Have I got that right?
Okay, so the recommendation, moved by Councillor Duff, seconded by Councillor Erkins, that the committee recommend to council that the report be received for information that the tender with separable activities is adopted as council's preferred option in the review of the contract for biosecurity services. All those, or go to the vote, all those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 9.5, extension to currency period for application MCU 19/0013 15 Rogers Drive, Kingaroy, and described as Lot 8 on SP 180642. The officer's recommendation, the applicant's request to extend the currency period of the development approval by an additional 4 years to May 2027 be refused under the Planning Act 2016 for the following reasons, and no alternate period is recommended. Item 1, there are no current related development applications or current development approvals for operational work or building work that signify the applicant is committing to implement the development approval. 2, there have not been any related approvals applied for in the 12 years of currency the applicant has already received. 3, there have been changes to planning laws and policies since the date of the original decision to warrant a new assessment and decision on the development that should be remade under the relevant contemporary planning instruments. 4, the community awareness of any development approval after a period of 12 years of inactivity on the land is limited, if not existent. 5, where the application was made today under the contemporary planning instruments applicable, the development would be subject to impact assessment and is generally inconsistent with the specialised centre zone planned uses. 6, the applicant has presented no planning grounds or other matters to justify any further extension to the currency period of the existing approval. 7, the applicant has relied on the delivery of extensions by way of minister's notices under declared applicable events to keep the approval alive in more recent years, with no further permits, changes or extension requests made directly to council that would ordinarily be necessary to allow the approval to have currency under the ordinary provisions of the Planning Act 2016. And 8, the application remains in effect until May 23 under the currently available extensions to currency issued by the Planning Minister. And that's it. So do we have a mover? Councillor Erkin, seconder. Councillor Henson, conversations, comments. Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you for the report. I did have a couple of questions, just in relation to, firstly, page 100, point 4. It says the change of ownership in 2021 cannot be solely relied upon in assessing this request, although it is considered a relevant matter. I didn't fully understand what that statement meant and hoped you could explain that to me.
Through the chair, look, the change of ownership is normally considered to be relevant if a new owner wishes to make an amendment to an application that is current. It's just for the council. Notification is there to fully inform council of what's happened. There's been a change of ownership, but there's been no applications to initiate the development application. And as stated in the conditions of assessment there, that there are very good reasons for not extending the approval, having regard the approval is current till May next year, 2023. There are very good reasons not to extend the approval, having regard they've all been stated, and that notification of a new owner is just a relevant consideration.
And just in terms of page 101, it says, you know, where the same application lodged now, a different development permit would need to be applied, whereas definitions of use have changed with contemporary planning instruments. So I know we adopted the economic development temporary planning instrument, and there's been the ones through COVID. So my question is, how would the different development permit, I did read it would be impact accessible, and I'm assuming that previously it maybe was code accessible. Just want to ensure that we're not potentially, from what I'm reading here, somebody's purchased the block of land in 2021 and they've asked for an extension of they've obviously purchased it because it's got that development approval on it. We're now saying the development approval lapses in 2023, so I'm assuming they're doing work on that. I guess I want to understand, have they been talking to our planning team about what work or what development they may have purchased that block of land for? And if we are to issue a different development permit, is that just more paperwork for the same outcome, or would there be different through that impact accessible process? What could we expect? Could this person who's potentially brought the block of land with an intent to do something with it actually have to go through impact assessment and potentially have their development declined on those grounds? I guess is my concern about this one. I understand all of the pages and pages of reasons why not to approve it. I guess I'm just concerned, are we tying up a potential development here, and have we had conversations with these people? Are we expecting something to come forward, or are we not? Is probably my thinking, Manager Mike.
In relation to the notification, the second part first, in relation to the assessment, it would indicate any development would trigger an impact assessment, and that would give the opportunity for the submitters, general public, to make a submission in relation to any development there. So that's one of the considerations. I don't believe there has been any discussions in relation to what they are planning or going forward. They just want an extension of a currency period for whatever reason. It's just that the time frame is considered to be outside the bounds of a reasonable development application, having regard that they have sought and received quite a few extensions in the past. The new owner we have no direct information in relation from the new owner about what they're proposing for the development.
Sorry, my other question about that was, so how would it differ? So if the new owner comes forward now with a development application based on what they've, purchased the property, they've purchased a property basically with a DA. Now, I imagine they're doing work in relation to that. If we don't accept the extension, we're basically putting them back at square one. I'm just wondering, how would this differ? Because I imagine the development application, the live DA approval would have conditions and things on it based on what the use of the property was determined in the planning scheme and in that approval.
The issue, not knowing what the new owner would be proposing for the development, there would be existing conditions in relation to the development. However, if they proposed any changes or amendments to those conditions, that would have to be assessed under the current codes in relation to, for instance, car parking and site coverage and any upgrades in the planning scheme, upgrades in other building codes and so on. So all those matters would have to be assessed, and that's why we would recommend that if they don't avail themselves to the the current planning approval within the next 12 months, that they submit a new application and it gets appropriately assessed through a impact assessable process, and then we have opportunities to assess them under the new codes and policies, and council can make a more informed decision of a current application that initially is a 12-month-old application.
Councillor Erkins.
Through you, Mr. Chair. In my opinion, when this buyer has bought the property, they were aware of what the zoning was. They were aware of the approvals and the time limit. They've had it for 8 months and have done nothing on it. They've got a further nearly 12 months to do it. If they're going to act on it, I think they've got plenty of time to act on it.
Through the chair, just to clarify, the land is zoned for specialised uses, currently zoned for specialised uses and not for light industrial as initially approved. So that's just that's some of the considerations that council would need to make to have a fully informed assessment of an application.
Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you. Just wondering when that changed. So obviously when they first put the application in, it was classed as light industrial, I'm thinking, if it was approved back in 2010. So when did that change with regards to the land?
Manager.
Through the chair. Look, the actual date of change is not identified. The current planning scheme was changed in 2017. So there had, within that, the last 12-year, 10-year, or 7-year time frame from the application, there was a change to an assessment of development opportunities in those areas, and that change was there to reflect the current desire for the development in those areas, and having regard there has been some other development in that area that reflects more appropriately what council was intended to have that area utilised for.
Okay, we've had some conversation, questions and answers given. So the officer's recommendation is the applicant's request to extend the currency period of the development approval by an additional 4 years to May 2027 be refused under the Planning Act 2016 for the following reasons, and no alternate period is recommended. And the 8 dot points are there as read previously. So we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 9.6, seeking council's in principle approval regarding an amendment to the LGBT boundary between Cherbourg Aboriginal Shire Council and the South Burnett Regional Council at Hagar Drive, Moffatdale, and described as Lot 13 on SP 104351. The officer's recommendation that the committee recommends to Council that the South Burnett Regional Council offer in principle support to the proposed local government boundary change between Cherbourg Aboriginal Shire Council and South Burnett Regional Council at Hagar Drive, Moffatdale, and described as Lot 13 on SP 104351. Do we have a mover? Councillor Duff, seconder. Councillor Potter. Probably go to Manager Mark for any comments. Mike, sorry. Mike's on the other side. Sorry, mate. I apologise.
Through the chair, yes, officers have had discussions with officers of the department in relation to this application. We sought some indication from them about submitting an application. What they needed was to the Department of Seniors, Disability and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander partnerships acting on behalf of Cherbourg Aboriginal Shire Council, and they needed to get an in-principle agreement from Council having regard to the local boundary changes, and they will submit a formal application as identified in the report, a small application to Council at a later date. The lot of land, as you can see from the mapping, there's been a house there around for about 30 years. We understand anecdotally, and it is only accessed through the Aboriginal Shire Council land, and has been used as a social house for a number of years. So that's the information we got formally from the department. Initial discussions with them came through, and we requested that they submit an application. They've asked us to seek Council's approval in principle. The report there identifies what that would entail, and so that's what Council's seeking. Council's acquiescence to that approval in principle at the present moment.
Thanks, Mike. Pretty sound explanation. Any questions? I think it's pretty straightforward. We'll go to the recommendation that the committee recommend to Council that the South Burnett Regional Council offer in principle support to the proposed local government boundary change between Cherbourg Aboriginal Shire Council and South Burnett Regional Council at Hagar Drive, Moffatdale, and described as land Lot 13 on SP 104351. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. We now move on to the portfolio for waste management, 10.1, that the waste management portfolio report to Council be received for information. I'll place it as read. Do we have a mover? Councillor Duff, Councillor Potter, second. Any questions? It's all there, a couple of pages for you to have read. If not, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 10.2, Environment and Waste Services Update. Officer's recommendation that the Environment and Waste Services Update be received for information. Do we have a mover? Thanks, Councillor Duff, and second, Councillor Henson. Again, some pages there of information and what's been happening in the waste section. Any questions? Okay. The recommendation is that the Environment and Waste Services Update be received for information. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 10.3, Participation in Regional Waste Groups. Officer's recommendation that the report be received for information. Have a mover. Councillor Potter, second, Councillor Erkins. Questions? All pretty straightforward. The report there, we're just receiving for information. So if no questions, the officer's recommendation that the report be received for information. All those in favour? Unanimous. 10.5. 11.1. We have the Rural Resilience, Parks and Gardens, Property and Facility Management and Indigenous Affairs Portfolio Report for the month of June, and I'll hand over now to Councillor Duff for that report.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. Parks and Gardens mowing is continuing across the region with the focus on the entry-exit points and CBD areas, with some areas still too wet to access with heavy mowers. These areas will be monitored, and once dried out, enough will be mowed. Park staff are continuing with weed eating, accompanied with spraying for the final time before winter. The crew is also hoping to get one final spray of Primo Max on all our major parks and high mow zones. Cruise and Nango, Wando, Mergen are also working on the annual gardens in preparation for new plantings in the coming months. Mr. Mayor, Acting Deputy Mayor, just on this, I noticed that we just tabled the report for water and wastewater. I'm happy just to table this if you don't want, like everyone's able to read these reports. And I've had comments from other councillors about this, and I know that Councillor Potter cut hers back just in the interest of time. I'm just declaring that I'm happy just to table my report if rather than just read it all through. Is everyone happy with that, or? Okay. So I move my report. Thank you. As presented. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder there? Councillor Potter. Any questions, comments in regards to Councillor Duff's report? So the officer's recommendation that Councillor Duff's Rural Resilience, Parks, Gardens, Property and Facility Management and Indigenous Affairs Portfolio Report to Council be received for information. All in favour? Or go to the vote. Those in favour, yes. Unanimous, thank you. 11.2, Parks and Gardens update. Again, that the Parks and Gardens update be received for information. The information is there for you. If there's no questions, Councillor Duff.
Through Deputy Mayor Jones, just wanted to say to let the Chamber know that the Proston Dementia Friendly Group got a grant for $6,000, and as per they've been wanting to do that sensory garden for some time, and I know that Deputy Mayor Jones and some others have said, that they needed to lead by example and start to get some funding. So I just wanted to declare that they've actually got $6,000 to get that happening. So thank you.
And can I say, please take back to congratulate the community, because that's good to see that community groups are leading the way and applying for funds and grants. It certainly takes the pressure off council and ratepayers. So thank you. So we have the officer's recommendation that the Parks and Gardens update be received for information. All those in favour? Unanimous. 11.3, properties operational update. Again, that the property operational update be received for information. Again, you've got a list of things that have been happening there, the capital works program and the likes. Pete, is there anything that you want to offer as explanation to anything before we go to the vote?
Oh no, I think it's quite a comprehensive report updating where things are at. So just take questions.
Any last chance for councillors? Okay, we'll go to the recommendation that the property operational update be received for information. All those in favour? Unanimous. 11.4, cost benefit analysis for electric mowers. The officer's recommendation, the report regarding electric mowers be received and noted for information. Do I have a mover? Councillor Shoemaker, second to Councillor Henson. Manager Watt, is there any brief explanation for this?
I get the message, Mr. Acting Chair. Really, in a nutshell, I regret to say that it's probably not an opportune time to move towards electric mowers. There's a lot of discussion in the industry. There's a large regional council east of us who are looking at what they call hydrogen-powered garbage trucks. There's other councils who are looking at hybrid vehicles. Those things are all great. But in terms of scaling it back to this council with its allocation of money for new mowers and the cost, I guess, of running those electric mowers, really purchasing them is the problem. And it's a bigger investment of funds initially. And really, it's like everything, when the costs come down a bit more, you may be in a position to do that. But in my view, I wouldn't be suggesting we go down that path at this point in time.
Thanks, Manager, and congratulations, whoever was responsible for doing the work and putting the report together. It was quite good. So thank you. Councillors, Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, I just wanted to say, this is excellent in terms of the cost-benefit discussions we've been having around purchasing machinery and looking at other options moving forward. It's just, extraordinary to see those calculations at the bottom there, that if we were to go with an electric mower, while the actual operating costs are much less, to see that annual hourly charge rate sort of go up to 5170 with the electric mower and at 3549 for the front deck mower. Yeah, that's quite a difference at this point in time. So I think it's really important that we do continue to do this sort of work, because there will, I agree with what Manager Mark has said, that at some point in time these will become actually more affordable for councils like us to purchase them. And I think in terms of our environmental footprint and what we're doing in that regard, you know, that will be an underpinning factor as to who receives funding and who's first in line when it comes to competing with our other regional councils into the future. I do see that as a core eligibility criteria. So it's great to see the work that's been done. Thank you. And I think it's important that maybe in 12 months' time we do a similar review just to see if anything has actually changed in terms of those costs of purchasing.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As you, Acting Chair, as you would appreciate, it was Councillor Henson who brought this request to Council, and it's taken some time to prepare, not to actually prepare it, but to get to it to return to Council. And I think it's really an initial feasibility overview type report. I think for this to be done properly needs, as it says in the report, a fairly thorough, a detailed analysis by a combination of parks people and plant people working together to understand the machinery, the costs, and get industry rates collated correctly. So, but, you know, an initial run over, those indicated prices are, you know, a bit surprising, but one that we can watch. And perhaps 12 months might be too soon to come back to it. I think you might need to let it ride a bit longer, because there's too much else going on that I guess Parks want to achieve in terms of its mower fleet and improvements in the system. And I think crossing this bridge is too early. Let's cross the bridge when we get to it, and that might be a bit further down the track, if that's, I say that with all due respect.
Yeah, thanks, Manager Watt, for the explanation, and Councillor Shoemaker. So the officer's recommendation that the report regarding electric mowers be received and noted for information. Councillor Henson, sorry.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, look, thank you, and appreciate a great amount of work going into this, and as Council has alluded to before, to be seen to sort of not necessarily go green, but certainly implement other measures to try and save money. But the cost of that, when you read it, is a great report put forward, and I was fortunate enough that day when we trialled the Eco Vac in the streets of Morgan that we went up to the park with an electric mower there, and some of the staff members there trialled it as well. And as you have suggested, Manager Mark, certainly I think in time, and there'll be other options. We all know what happens in 12 months or 2 years' time, that $80,000 could possibly come down to $79,999. But in the environment we live in, certainly there's other options there that in 2 or 5 years' time. But yeah, certainly appreciate that. Great work that's been done. And I think perhaps, may I suggest, there's a media release or something that we notify the public that we have looked at this and in depth, and at this point in time it's just not feasible for us, because there's a fair bit of conversation around you know, trying to economise in what we're doing. That being said, at the price of that, I think everyone in this chambers, if we could afford it, would like to see 3 more mowers in our fleet. That would certainly help Parks and Gardens as well, and that's probably not achievable at the moment either. So yeah, great work, guys.
Thanks, Councillor. So the recommendation is moved by Councillor Shoemaker, seconded by Councillor Henson, that the report regarding electric mowers be received and noted for information. Go to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 11.5, commercial lease of Tingora aerodrome farming land. The officer's recommendation that the committee recommend to Council that the farming land located at Lot 3 on SP 249643 and Lot 2 on FTZ 37166, known as Lease Areas B, C, D, E and F, be offered by way of tender in accordance with Section 2271A of the Land Government Regulation 2012 for a commercial farming lease. Do we have a mover? Councillor Shoemaker.
Sorry, Councillor Jones. Just looking at this, I've just realised I actually own the property across the road from Peterson Drive, the corner here that we're looking at. It's a cropping parcel of land, and just for transparency, I'd probably rather leave the room for this discussion, sorry.
Entirely up to you, councillor. I think we've
So
addressed.
I'd like to declare, that conflict, that I own the property across the road on Peterson Drive. It's currently we use it for cropping purposes. Just for those reasons, I will leave the room and stay away while the matter's voted on.
Thanks, councillor. And just note Councillor Shoemaker leaving the room at 11:51. Where was I? Asked for a mover and a seconder. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, seconder. Councillor Duff. Comments, questions, Councillor Potter?
Yeah, thank you. I'm just aware that the Tingora Gliding Club have a section of land that they use just in front along the main highway of Lot D there. And I just want to make sure that we've actually had that conversation with the Tingora Soaring Club.
Thanks, Councillor Potter. Maybe it's a good opportunity to go to our staff and if there's any explanation around that, Manager Mark or Rebecca or Pete, take your pick.
To you, Acting Chair, yes, we have discussed it with the Gliding Club, and that is incorporated in the proposal that that Area D, meet the needs of the Gliding Club. So also the Machinery Club have indicated various changes that may be relevant to what we do here going forward. So they will have the opportunity to tender on that new Section E up the top. And I have received information that Area C, which is the bottom left-hand corner, they may not wish to continue with that. So that can just be resolved as part of the new process to lease out those sections.
Happy with that, councillor?
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Erkins, can you just flick Councillor Shoemaker's light off for us, please? Thank you. Councillor Ancient.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just in relation to not only Section D on that, but also Section B in relation to previous conversation with potential development of that area.
Yeah, well, I think that won't impact on this. My view, this is my thoughts, that's way down the track, really. This is only a lease arrangement for cropping. So, should council decide as part of its master planning process, which is quite advantageous, that might be declared as a future development area. But certainly in the meantime, I think we're best to get as much revenue sources for that land as we can.
Just a question to you, Manager. Is there any restrictions or anything, like, are they going to grow corn out there? Like, are we going to have high cropping? I guess who knows if we tender it out? Is there any restrictions going to be put on the height and types of crops?
Not the height of the crops, but they're not going to run cattle on there. That sort of thing. So that we eliminate the livestock issue. I'm stating the bleeding obvious probably. But in terms of cropping, what we would probably do is perhaps have crops that are not attracting, bird life and those sort of things, and they are conducive to the activities at the aerodrome. So I can't give you an unequivocal list of what they could and they, should do, but that would be taken into account when we do the lease process.
You raise a very good point. There's corellas and all sorts of birds, and corn would certainly attract us.
Yeah, so corn scares me, but let's just flesh that out in the process.
Yep, Councillor Hanchin.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, look, that's something I think this chamber wants to take particular notice of. We have a massive issue with corellas and a particular part of on the southern side, southeastern side of Kingaroy, and peanuts. Councillor Shoemaker and myself attended a meeting there throughout the the growing season. So, I mean, no matter what crop you grow there, you could have some serious issues with, be it varmint, be it bird life, be it cockatoos, crows, corellas, galahs, and dust. And I guess the other thing, time frame, those would be negotiated from a year-to-year basis, perhaps. If we're going to look down that path and limit cropping in there, you might be surprised that you won't grow anything there. But that's something Chambers just wants to take note of, because if we have an airfield that's surrounded by, and let's face it, we can grow anything in the South Burnett, and every crop we grow will create an issue with some form of varmint and dust there. So yeah, would love to see something, and it's certainly an entity, be able to make money out of it and save money for the council, that's for sure. But at the same time, be very wary we're not opening another can of worms here.
Yeah, Mr. Acting Chair, look, this is an investment in risk and safety for the aerodrome. So by doing cropping, you're actually reducing the risk, because you're going to reduce the amount of roos. You know, the fence is resolving that to a large degree, but that vegetated area in Area B is a haven for a lot of kangaroos, for example. So the cropping would be conducive to reducing those numbers, and by virtue of somebody occupying that space, they're going to get rid of those animals in any case. So, and also, I guess you're sort of just reducing the vegetation in that area as well, and all sorts of issues like that. And by the way, there's a very keen interest in this land. So that's why we're putting it forward to take up that offer, or that interest, and generate some income. And that activity around the aerodrome is, at the end of the day, a better outcome than what we're doing now, which is nothing, actually, in some areas. Some areas are being cropped. So it's a real advantageous situation for council.
So one last question before we go to Councillor Potter as well. So you have spoke to every entity out there in regards to this and cropping, like anyone that's got hangars, planes, gliders, they've all been consulted, spoken to. So, you know, I'd hate to get out there and start having conversations around bird life and all that being brought in there and then having to shut it all down. So has everyone, like, there's been community consultation?
You can't keep everybody happy all of the time, but cropping is part of that facility, actually. So people, generally through the consultation process, people are generally accepting, one, to put the fence in has been a good thing, because it defines the cropping ability of those areas much better. And we did discuss cropping as part of our consultation on the fence. So I'm not going to say everyone's totally happy, but generally it's my view, my understanding, and there are other officers have much more regular contact with those users at the aerodrome than I have personally. But it's my understanding that they are all quite aware that this is the intention of council, and it is in a way to improve and to maximise the use of the aerodrome.
Righto, last couple of questions. Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just with regards to Lot F, I know you said that the Vintage Tractor Club were looking at it, but, you know, in the case that it doesn't go to them, I would just like to make sure that because that's got the historic bunker in, and I think that's the only building left apart from where the men's shed are from the Air Force. It's the old ammo bunker that they used to fire into, and I just would like to keep a little bit of our heritage, even though no one actually sees it, but it'd be really nice if people could, but I'd love to keep that piece of history, please.
And we'll go to Councillor Hanchin, and then if there's any comments to finish up, Mr. Watt.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and just it's a little bit of useless information. All that country was farmed years ago. So, yes, certainly appreciate the work that's done there, Manager Mark.
Yeah. Okay, the officer's recommendation that the committee recommend to council that the farming land located on Lot 3 on SP 249643 and Lot 2 FTZ 37166, known as lease areas B, C, D, E and F, be offered by way of tender in accordance with section 2271A of the Local Government Regulation 2012 for a commercial farming lease. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Can we bring Councillor Shoemaker back in, please? 11.6 Wandai Christmas tree location extended community consultation. The officer's recommendation is that the committee recommend to council that South Burnett Regional Council approve the relocation of the Wandai Christmas tree from the Wandai roundabout to the proposed location, attachment 1 in Coronation Park, Wandai, as per feedback received from the broader Wandai community. Do we have a mover? Councillor Henson. Yeah, and seconder, Councillor Duff. Comments, questions? You can see there where we're proposing to move it to. You got the Wandai Christmas tree relocation feedback summary there, and the diagrams clearly show. Now, we had a TAC meeting yesterday, and the main roads are happy for it to be relocated into the new location. We just don't need any corridor permits or anything like that. We will do for the upgrade to the roundabout, but as far as the tree goes, we're good to go. Councillor Henson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, look, this has been a long, ongoing community consultation. It states there how many times and where and what was done there. I just would like to stress to the community in Wandai, this Christmas tree is going approximately the width of the road. It will still be, and as the feedback summary explains here, 80% are in favour of it being shifted. Not everybody's agreed on this. We know that. This has been back and forth to council. It's not going to be lost. It still will be seen from the approaches into and out of Wandai and coming down from the town area. I really do hope that the Wandai people take this on board as a win. They're not losing the Christmas tree. And as I stated, it's moving virtually the width of the street, and I think it will complement and still look good and be great for our staff and the safety of our staff and the costing of it to put it up and down. So it's taken a long time to come to this result, but I really do hope the Wandai community appreciate where this goes and the result that's not been chosen by this council, it's been chosen by the feedback here. So look forward to a wonderful new roundabout in Wandai, which will be great access for the traffic going through there, and that Christmas tree will be still very visible. It will be approximately 40 metres from where it is now. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Any other comments, questions? Okay, Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. I just wanted to acknowledge the effort Councillor Henson actually went to engage his community in relation to what's before us here. I know he was picking up marquees and things and driving to community. Was it the markets or the garden show? It was a number of things. Yeah, I just really want to acknowledge you. I do think he went above and beyond to try to connect with his community. So thank you for your efforts. I know I was unable to make it due to other commitments, but it was just great to see you go to that extraordinary extent to try to talk to the people of Wandai and understand their views. So thank you for your efforts, Councillor Henson.
Thanks, Councillor Shoemaker. So the officer's recommendation that the council recommend to council that the South Burnett Regional Council approve the relocation of the Wandai Christmas tree from the Wandai roundabout to the proposed location, attachment 1 in Coronation Park, Wandai, as per feedback received from the broader Wandai community. Go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. 11.7 Installation of Christmas trees. Officer's recommendation that the committee recommends to council that the report regarding installation of Christmas trees be received and noted, and 2, that the purchase costs for new Christmas trees and garland decorations be referred to the first quarterly budget review in 2022-23. Do we have a mover? Councillor Shoemaker. Second, Councillor Duff. Questions, comments? It's a report to installation be received and noted. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. Just wanting to know, the Morrison Business Association were concerned about the timelines. So do we actually make the tree, or are we ordering a new tree?
Yes, we make the tree. We fabricate the steel in our workshop and we erect it. Install it.
Thank you. So there's no issues with timelines to actually get that, make sure we've got a new tree, because the Morrison tree now is not able to be used because it got damaged with it's not in a undercover. and so the tree has been it's faded on one side. So yeah, they're just concerned. So I can assure them that the tree will be available for Christmas. There'll be a new tree.
I haven't established that yet. I tried to by contacting relevant people and didn't have time prior to the meeting, but it would be a priority for me to do that and attempt to get that done obviously before Christmas. So that would be, as a result of this decision, that would be the priority really, is to get that Mergen tree fabricated by our council fabricators and ready for Christmas. So I'd need to come back to you to advise on that timeline.
Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just with regards to just a couple of questions. So I just want to make sure with this that I know we're only receiving this report, but a couple of things that maybe needed to be questions on taken on notice is regards to Mergen Christmas tree. I just need to make sure there'll be no fencing around that like it is, that people can actually get closer to that tree, because I don't believe that I think that could be a lot better than what it is now. And also the Tingora Christmas tree is in a position now that was only put there because of the roundabout, and there needs to be community consultation, and whether and when we're carrying that community consultation out for the Tingora Christmas tree placement as well. Thank you.
You don't need a question on notice on those two. I can answer them. So that'll save me a lot of time writing that report, Councillor Potter. The first question is the Mergen Christmas tree would be, it's got to find a new location, like long term, but it won't have a fence around it. It'll be similar to all the other ones. And secondly, in relation to Tingora, that's a separate issue, and that will have to come later, because where it is now is where it is now. And so if council intends to move it, that will be a whole new consultation process, as you say, and that would be done, I would guess, and I'd be directed by the GM, not this Christmas, but the following Christmas, because it's been engineered, designed and installed in its current location. But if council did have a priority to put it elsewhere as a result of the CBD upgrade, you'd need to find the timeline to do that, and I'm not sure that's possible.
Yeah, look, just as a follow-on comment, is the fact that the tree was actually only put there because we never had a Christmas tree in Tingora last Christmas, and that was one of the things that the community was in a little bit of an uproar about. So that was just the only spot we could think of at that particular time. So that's the only reason it's there. We had a chat to Tingora Chamber of Commerce. So I do believe that if it stays there this year, that's fine, but we do need to bring it back to the community, because there are other places that they would like to see the Christmas tree.
Yeah, thank you. Just quickly before we go, add Blackbutt to it, because Blackbutt's been taken out of the main street and it'll need another place to go. But we have had issues in the past with, we need building approvals for this, believe it or not, because we have to have them with flagpoles. So we need to make sure that wherever we decide to put them, it has to go through a process, and we do need building approval for that to be completely okay. So, Councillor Erkins.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. What happened to the one that you had down here in the... Oh, so it wasn't actually built to go there, it was actually from down there, yeah. Also, when we're talking about positions, I know when you drive through the town, and I haven't spoken to my community, it's nice to see them in the town, but when I send where they're moving the one to Wandai, it's also nice to be able to take kids up to a tree, and when they're in the town, while they're nice for people driving town, they're not really part of your community.
Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that the Mergen people would be fairly put out if they weren't able to put their tree back in the park, in QE2 Park, because that was where it has always been, and that would be ideal because that's where they actually have their Christmas fair. So just that one. And the I wanted to flag was that it's in this report, it says that Mergen will just get a small Christmas tree as opposed to a large one. That Christmas tree that they had in Mergen was a very large tree. So just wondering about this I noticed the other towns, Tingora and Nango, Wando, have all got the bigger trees. So what was the purpose of, well, why have you recommended a small tree for Mergen?
Well, I just think it's an acceptable size for that locality, and it would look, it would look quite fine in terms of its size and attractiveness for that, and it will go into the QE2 park. It just might mean that when we do the concept plan or the master plan, we just find an exact location for it as such. But I think those trees, my view is that size tree would be quite good for Mergen.
Yeah, I think just a comment on that. I was thinking if you look at the two size trees, the 8 metre ones like that are at in the Nanango roundabout, the one that come from Kingaroy, they've got that first 2 metres or whatever for visibility underneath the trees. So the smaller trees, like the one that's at Proston, when they're put in a park, you actually they're probably a little bit better to have a photo in front of with the kids, sort of a more. Whereas if you have the really big ones like we have in Kingaroy, they're designed to go on the roundabout so you can see underneath them. But if you take a photo with some little kids underneath them, they probably just a personal opinion. But that was why I thought that you had like the smaller one, which was a lot easier to manage in the park, and it's for the photos around. But the other ones you can see underneath.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, happy with that because I know if that's the reason, so that I can explain to them that it's because it's in the park as opposed to on a roundabout. That's good. Yeah.
Councillor Shoemaker, comments before we go to the vote?
Yeah, I really appreciate the report. I've never learned so much about Christmas trees than I have in these first 2 years of my term at council. And I guess that's because it's something that you take for granted in your community every year that it's put up. I just wondered, in terms of the cost, I wanted to make sure I understood this right. So to deliver on the options that you've put on the back page here, Manager Watt, you're saying that we'll have to fabricate 3 new small trees at a cost of $30,000, and then we'll need to purchase the garland for those, which will be $18,000. The crew time and everything, I guess, is part of our normal operations, but it'll be those initial CapEx costs that we'll need to find in the budget. Am I correct in that? So that'll be $48,000.
That's correct. Yeah, and it's a cost that we haven't. We need to reassess our allocation for that activity, and I'm not concerned by that. So we would probably or possibly do it progressively, or absorb the costs, or come back to quarterly budgets and say, look, we might not be able to do all of them at that relevant time, but I'm not concerned about that because, again, we're buying this sort of stuff every year and there's trees coming in and bits and pieces. So it's just part of that allocation. So it might sound like a large figure, but it's one that we can incorporate into the existing Parks and Gardens budget.
So am I right in understanding that after we, note this report and, that the purchase cost for new Christmas trees and garlands be referred to the first quarter budget? I'm just concerned, will you be able to continue the work on this? And then if there are any costs outside the scope of your budget, so it's not going to, this decision here isn't going to be an inhibitor to you and your team working toward getting a Christmas tree in every town for Christmas?
No, you're right. That's right. It'll be more like if there's a problem or if there's an exception that I need to bring to council's attention, I'll bring that back. But the intent is that we would implement this based on current resources, capacity, et cetera, I mean, I know I've got some fabrication issues to resolve.
Yes.
That could be a problem, but, at this moment in time, it's sort of all along the lines of implementing that decision.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I was just going to comment. So there is the 3 trees does include 2 tree new locations. So Heisville and Cumbia. So as Councillor Duff, the Mergen tree is in disrepair and probably is going to be the priority to get that one back up and that. So I was just probably comment that those by reducing having these trees that we're building, they're quick and easy to put together. So we're saving operational costs to actually have those trees. That's where we were trying to have those savings, that we could actually expand the program out to include Highsville and Cumbia. So that's probably where we're saying we'd need to work out the logistics of. So if we were going to, it'd be those ones that would go on the back burner, I suppose, and so we can deliver that tree in Mergen and then sort of look to expand it out to there. So that was where sort of, and some of the genesis of the report was a request from the Highsville community to have that tree. New trees obviously need a little bit more work about their location. You wouldn't think it would be difficult, but trying to find difficult for a tree. So they're the ones that, we would sort of need to work with those communities and look at whether it's not this Christmas, but you identify that you would work towards getting them a time frame.
Yeah, I'm just actually wondering if in the committee recommendation that we should actually have a third point that says that, you know, we write to the community groups of, so the new trees would be Cumbia and Hivesville. Yes, so that we council write to the community group or the Progress Association for Hivesville, the Hivesville, so that we write to the Hivesville Progress Association. And what is the Cumbia group, Councillor Henshin? Cumbia Hall Committee. And the Cumbia Hall Committee to seek their feedback in regards to an appropriate location for their Christmas tree.
You happy with that change, Councillor Duff, as a seconder?
Yes, just the Heisel one, it's in Memorial Park, so they've already got a spot there.
Okay, so they're happy? Yep, so it's just the Cumbia Hall Committee then? Yep, okay, thank you.
All righty, we've had good conversation around this. We can go to the vote. A committee recommend... Love your work. That the committee recommends... Sorry, Councillor Duff.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Jones. I'm just wondering, with regards to what Councillor Shoemaker said about writing to them, I think that because they've already written to us, well, particularly the Heisel one, we need to, if they're not going to get a Christmas tree by this Christmas, we probably need to let them know that what's happening, so that we don't, both Cumbia and Heisel, don't get their hopes up and then that we don't deliver. That's all.
So perhaps at the end of Christmas tree and full stop, remove that and respond, yep, to the Hivesville Progress Association with an update. Yep. Thank you.
Righto. The committee recommends to council that the report regarding installation of Christmas trees be received and noted. 2, that the purchase cost for new Christmas trees and garland decorations to be referred to the first quarterly budget review 22-23, and write to the Cumbia Hall Committee to seek their feedback in regards to an appropriate location for the Christmas tree and respond to the Heisel Progress Association with an update. We go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 11.8, Geelong Community Hall Renewal Licence to Occupy. The officer's recommendation that the committee recommend to council that 1, the South Burnett Regional Council, in accordance with S2361B2 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, enter into a licence to occupy with the Geelong Community Hall Committee, Inc. for Lot 102 AU 117 and Lot 5 and 6 on RP 55187 for a term of 3 years and rental of $75 per annum exclusive of GST on terms agreed between Council and the Geelong Community Hall Committee, Inc. And 2, South Burnett Regional Council delegates to the Chief Executive Officer the power to negotiate, finalise and execute the licence to occupy between Council and the Geelong Community Hall Committee, Inc. on terms and conditions the Chief Executive Officer reasonably considered as satisfactory to Council. Do we have a mover? Councillor Duff, seconder Councillor Henshin. Questions, comments? I think it's straightforward. Go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 11.9, condition of Cloyner Hall. The officer's recommendation that the committee recommend to council that 1, the South Burnett Regional Council engage an experienced geotechnical engineer to inspect and prepare a remediation plan, and 2, council allocates $80,000 from savings from within the overall 21-22 Building Capital Works program and fund this future work from the 22-23 Building Asset Restricted Cash. Do we have a mover? Councillor Duff. Seconder, Councillor Potter. Comments, questions? Councillor Shoemaker.
I just would like to understand further the funding mechanism, if we can talk to that. If we take from the 22-23 building asset restricted cash, are there other projects or things that won't be done because of that?
GM, Pete.
Thank you. Yeah, so what's this suggested here is there's actually a couple of projects that are going to come in under budget in this current financial year. And so while it's not so I think the suggestion is if that funding was put into restricted cash, it could be reallocated against this project next financial year. Normally some of those savings would just go to the greater good and go back into consolidated, but it was actually identifying that this project, that if there was savings, that it could be funded through that. And hopefully we've talked to finance.
So are we all happy with Councillor? Yep. No more questions. All righty. We'll go to the vote on the recommendation that the committee recommend to council that South Burnett Regional Council engage an experienced geotechnical engineer to inspect and prepare a remediation plan, and 2, council allocates $80,000 from savings from within the overall 21-22 Building Capital Works program and fund this future work from the 22-23 Building Asset Restricted Cash. All those in favour? Councillor Shoot. Unanimous. Thank you. 11.10, Trustee Lease Wandai Tennis Association. Officer's recommendation that the committee recommend to council that the South Burnett Regional Council, in accordance with S2361B2 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, enter into a licence to occupy with the Wandai District Tennis Association Incorporated for lease area A of Lot 172 on FY 713 for a term of 10 years for a rental of amount of $75 per annum, GST exclusive. And 2, South Burnett Regional Council delegates to the Chief Executive Officer the power to negotiate, finalise and execute the trustee lease between Council and the Wandai District Tennis Association Incorporated on terms and conditions the Chief Executive Officer reasonably considers are satisfactory to Council. Do we have a mover? Councillor Henson, second Councillor Duff. Comments, questions? Should be able to go straight to the vote, straightforward. All. No. Councillor Shoemaker.
Yeah, I just was a little bit confused here just with the background in the report. It says that the association approached council in early 22 for support to apply for grant funding to undertake a resurfacing of the tennis court service. Most grant funders now require evidence of formal tenure, so that's fine. But it's where you talk about the 2018-2028 Sport and Rec Infrastructure Plan that it says council has identified 3 areas of development for Sunstruck Park under Council Sport and Rec Plan, including assessing the condition of the courts annually and undertaking repairs to extend the life of the courts, installed a large shelter. So that's obviously we had planned to undertake repairs to extend the life of courts, but we're actually now working with the tennis club to obtain funding. Am I right in my understanding of that, or I just wanted to be clear in terms of our role?
Yeah, through the chair. I think so. The sport and recreation plan was basically to identify projects that council would support and where our direction was. So obviously the direction was to maintain those courts. Obviously, if we can get external funding, that's the preferred option. So it's really identifying that we would support the retention of those and upgrading of the courts. So yeah, it's not that we're fighting against. We are just saying we are supporting those.
We are supporting, and will support with the application. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, councillor. So the committee recommendation, moved by councillor Hanchin, second by councillor Duff, that the committee recommend to council that the South Burnett Regional Council, in accordance with S236 1B2 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, enter into a lease to occupy with the Wandine District Tennis Association Incorporated for lease area A of Lot 172 on FY 713 for a term of 10 years for a rental amount of $75 per annum, GST exclusive. And 2, South Burnett Regional Council delegates to the Chief Executive Officer the power to negotiate, finalise and execute the trustee lease between Council and the Wandine District Tennis Association Incorporated on terms and conditions the Chief Executive Officer reasonably considers satisfactory to Council. We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 12.1, questions on notice. Driveway specs. Council has received, that one came... You've got them there. Questions on notice. Security options currently in place at Pioneer Park, Nanango, and also driveway specs. Councillor Potter for the first one, and who was the one that asked for that in Nanango? Was that you, Councillor Erkins? Were you there then? Oh, Councillor Shoemaker, sorry. Sorry for that, I apologise, I couldn't spot your name there. So are we happy with those two responses, councillors, as far as questions on notice? Councillor Shoemaker?
I think the information provided in question on notice 12.1 is really relevant even to the deputation made this morning around curb and mountable curb and access to properties and who's responsible, like driveways are the responsibility of the actual resident, and I think that's where we often run into trouble. So am I reading this right, that the design of the curb in Curtelling Crescent was actually suitable for the 1993 development? However, and it was common in other local governments, but actually now, Manager Lowe, we wouldn't use that method. Have I understood that correctly, or can you just provide the clarification there?
Through you, Chair. Yeah, happy to, Councillor. I've actually got a lot of experience in laying curb and channel for many years. So that type of profile was their initial layback type curb. Predominantly, most vehicles seem to have a fair clearance rate with that, but I think more modern vehicles with their lower spoilers out the front cause trouble. And they've actually gone to a different profile now, which is like, they call it a rollback curb. So it's like a curved S shape on a side profile. But yeah, certainly right. It was acceptable curb and channel, and it's been through many councils that I've worked at as well.
And so just, we're saying there basically that residents with that older curb can alter the access with a no-cost application to Council's infrastructure department. So you can apply to Council to upgrade your curb at your own cost, and we won't contribute to that, but you can certainly, if it's a problem for you, you can cover the cost of upgrading that. Have I got that understanding right?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yes, that's correct.
So are we going to move that one and then move on, or do you want me to?
Yeah, so driveway specs, 12.1. Councillor Potter, you happy with the response you've got? Okay, thank you. Councillor Shoemaker, 12.2. Security options currently in place at Pioneer Park. So do we have a seconder for that particular motion? Councillor Shoemaker, all those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 12.2, question on notice, security options currently in place at Pioneer Park, Nanango. Councillor Shoemaker.
Yeah, thank you. I think there's been a number of concerning incidents happen in Pioneer Park. I see there's no CCTV at the moment, and that NATDA have made a funding application that was unsuccessful. I just know we've looked at CCTV in other parks and things around Kingaroy. Has this been captured on a list or a register or something where, if we are looking at prioritising CCTV projects or something, that Pioneer Park isn't lost in that regard, is probably my question, General Manager. I just want to make sure. I know we've done a lot of work in relation to CCTV. I know it's complex and complicated because we've got different systems and things, but I do think the golden goose would be to actually have CCTV in Pioneer Park. So I just want to make sure this is on a list somewhere for consideration.
Through the chair. Yeah, so we do need a project to actually bring all of that together. So yeah, it would be just one of a number of places. So we are trying to standardise all of our CCTV. Look at the community. So that is a project we've got for next year. Is actually trying to investigate that, whether that. But then when you're looking at your crime through prevention grant fundings and those sort of things, we'd certainly be looking at those sort of opportunities.
Councillor Erkins, comments?
Through you, Mr Chair. I believe there was some confusion as to the grant that NAPTA put in, because I believe that Gloria might have actually started that, and then she is no longer a member, and Sharon didn't know anything about it. So there is possibly an opportunity for them to reapply for funding through that.
So I guess we could, as the councillor over there, you could address that. So Councillor Shoemaker, you happy with those responses? Okay, move that be accepted. A seconder, Councillor Henson, thank you. And all those in favour? Councillor Potter left the room. You can pick that up, Breeden. Yeah. So that'll be 5-0. Alrighty, the confidential section. The officer's recommendation is that council considers the confidential reports listed below in a meeting closed to the public in accordance with section 254J of the Local Government Regulation 2012, progress of consultation for divestment of Kingaroy Enterprise Centre. This matter is considered to be confidential under section 254JG of the Local Government Regulation, and the council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would, on balance, be contrary to the public interest as it deals with negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of the local government. And 13.2, Creative Country Association Inc., Morrison Ancient Songbird Centre. This matter is considered to be confidential under section 254JC of the Local Government Regulation, and the council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would, on balance, be contrary to the public interest as it deals with the local government's budget. I will move a procedural motion to go into confidential. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Henson. Go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. We'll just wait now for brief. Okay, so I would like to move a procedural motion that we come out of confidential now. Seconder, Councillor Henson. All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. The first item that was dealt with in the confidential section, 13.1, progress of consultation for divestment of Kingaroy Enterprise Centre. The officer's recommendation is that the report be received. Do I have a mover? Councillor Duff, seconder. Councillor Potter. Comments, questions? Go to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 13.2, Creative Country Association Inc., Morrison Ancient Songbird Centre. The officer's recommendation is that the committee recommend to council that 1, council respond to the representatives of the Creative Country Association Inc., informing them that council supports their concept in principle, however, council is unable to provide funding, and 2, council welcome the opportunity to visit with a view to discussing how council can support Creative Country Association Incorporated in their efforts to obtain funding from other sources. Do we have a mover? Councillor Duff, seconder. Councillor Erkin. Questions, comments? All those in favour? Unanimous. I apologise to council and anybody that's watching. I had a late addition to the confidential section, and I'd like to move a procedural motion to acknowledge the fact that we have dealt with that in the confidential section we've just come out of. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Henson. All those in favour? Thank you. The confidential item that I referred to is 13.3 St John's School, Grade 12 expansion, and the officer's recommendation is that the committee recommend to council that council meet with representatives of St John's Lutheran School to investigate options for the expansion of the school to cater for the introduction of senior schooling. Do I have a mover? Councillor Henshin, seconder, Councillor Erkins. All those in favour? Unanimous. That concludes the meeting of the Standing Committee, Community Standing Committee. The meeting I declare closed at about 1:11. Thank you all very much. I'm looking at that clock up there. My apologies, 1:09. So 1:09, thank you all very much for your attendance, and we will see you back here in an hour for the next meeting, another Standing Committee meeting. Thank you.